Good morning and welcome everyone to this edition of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Buck. Here. Senator Daly. Here. Senator Hammond. Here. Senator Lang. Here. Senator Pazina. Senator Scheibel. Senator Stone. Here. Chair Spearman.
Here, and please mark Senator Scheibel present when she arrives. So I'd like to welcome everyone here, those who are here with us in Carson City and those who are joining us in Las Vegas. Welcome, and those who are joining us virtually on the phone. A couple of housekeeping items, and let me do it too. Please silence your phones so that they don't go off while we're in testimony. And I saw someone at one of the meetings yesterday, they didn't, and they were like, and they dropped the phone. So everybody take a little bit of time and make sure that your phones are silenced. Make sure your phones are silenced, and remember that there are several different ways that you can join us. You can in person here, in person in Las Vegas, telephonically. You can submit written comments, or you can share your opinion on the opinion poll on Nellis. And again, all exhibits should be in to our committee manager no later than 8 o'clock the day before. When testifying, please, please, please turn the microphone on and clearly state your name and the entity that you represent. Project your voice. We have several people who listen to us over the internet, and everybody doesn't have Bose speakers, so when you don't project, then they can't hear. And it's unfair. If they take the time to tune in, they should be able to hear. So please make sure that you project your voice. Reminder to all those who testify, in accordance with NRS 218E.085, it is unlawful for a person to knowingly misrepresent facts when testifying before a legislative committee, and any person who does so is guilty of a misdemeanor. In addition, both the chair and members may request any testifier to submit documentation supporting their testimony. All committee-related information is accessible on the legislature's website. We'll take public comment at the end, and public comment cannot, will not, and shall not include anything that we discussed during the hearing on any of the bills that we heard. It is completely separate from that. And if you're making public comment and you refer back to one of the bills, I'm going to have to ask you to stop and do something else, okay? So with that, we have all committee members here. I want to start with our work session, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Megrejo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Committee Policy Analyst. Before we start with the first bill, I want to make a note that we have pulled Senate Bill 259 at the sponsor's request. That will be scheduled for a work session at a later date. So the first bill in today's work session is Senate Bill 203. This bill prohibits certain gifts by a manufacturer or wholesaler of drugs or medical devices to a practitioner. It was sponsored by Senator Doñate, and it was heard on March 27, 2023. Senator Doñate and Rocky Finseth, representing Pharma, have submitted the following amendments, which were submitted after the hearing of the bill. The first amendment is to amend paragraph H of subsection 2 of section 2 to replace the proposed provisions of instead provide that the term gift does not include the provision of or payment for modest meals and refreshments in connection with non-continuing medical education presentations and certain other presentation scenarios, provided that such presentations occur in a venue and a manner conducive to informal communication. Second amendment is to amend section 3 to delete the proposed provisions in subsections 1 and 2 concerning the requirements to submit annual reports to the board. This is the Board of Pharmacy. Instead, add new provisions to require the board to post on its internet website information describing the link to publicly available information through the federal open payments website pursuant to section 602 of the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. And a special note, the Open Payments Program is a national disclosure program that promotes a more transparent and accountable health care system. Open Payments houses a publicly accessible database of payments that reporting entities, including drug and medical device companies, make to covered patients like physicians, or covered recipients like physicians. Madam Chair, that's all the amendments.
Thank you. Committee, are there any questions, additional discussion, comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Move to amend and do pass?
Yes.
So we have a motion by Vice Chair Lang. We have a second by Senator Buck. Additional questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously, and I'll assign the floor statement to Senator Doniate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Melgarejo, Competing Policy Analyst. Next bill is Senate Bill 276, which revises provisions related to collection agencies. This bill is sponsored by Senator Lang, and it was heard on April 3rd, 2023. Senate Bill 276 makes various changes concerning the practice and licensure of collection agencies and persons who engage in the business of purchasing debt. There were several amendments that were presented by Brian Reeder, President of Ferrari Reeder Public Affairs. These amendments are attached to the work session document, and the majority of these amendments were presented during the bill's hearing. I would just like to point out amendments number 9, 10, and 11. These amendments were submitted after the date the bill was heard. Amendment number 9 as amends paragraph B of subsection 1 of section 26 to add new provisions that set forth certain certifications, degrees, or experiences that an applicant for a certificate as a compliance manager may hold to demonstrate their competency. Amendment number 10 amends subsection 2 of section 26 to retain provisions proposed to be deleted in paragraph A, which require an applicant for a certificate as a compliance manager to pass an examination. In addition, amend paragraph A to provide that an examination is required unless waived by the division. Amendment number 11 is to amend subsection 52 to restore NRS 649.02, which was proposed to be repealed by this bill. By restoring this section, it restores the language requiring the examinations. And one final note, amendment number 16 was also submitted after the date the bill was heard. This amendment is to section 53 to provide that this act shall not affect the validity of any civil action or arbitration filed or commenced or any judgment entered before October 1, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any questions, discussion, comments? Senator Daley?
And thank you, Madam Chair. And I did speak with the bill sponsor, I think it was yesterday, might have been, it was recently, regarding the issue that I brought up when the bill was being heard. I support the bill and the amendments, and that's not an issue. But I did want to know, or maybe legal can answer, if the question over that apparent conflict on the confidentiality and the two, if that's something that can be taken care of when they redraft. And I think the sponsor was okay with that. They just wanted to make sure that it legally it got done in a good fashion. I see Brian's ready to answer.
Okay, legal, you want to comment, please?
Yes. So there is a little bit of a difference between Section 17 and Section 20. Under Section 20, the residential address is confidential and can't be disclosed under any circumstances. In Section 17, there are some circumstances where information in an application can be disclosed to investigating agencies and other entities. But if the committee directs staff to work with the sponsor, we can certainly work on language to address any concerns if the committee wishes us to do so.
Thank you. The committee wishes you to do so. Okay,
Thank you.
additional questions? I'll entertain a motion. Amend to pass. Have a motion by Vice Chair Lang and second by Senator Daley to amend and do pass. All those in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. And Senator Lang, you want to take the floor statement? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cesar Melgarejo, Committee Policy Analyst for the record. Next bill is Senate Bill 330. This bill revises provisions related to health care sponsored by Senator Lang and was heard on April 3rd, 2023. Senate Bill 330 revises existing provisions requiring certain health insurance policies to provide coverage for mammograms, to require such policies to additionally provide coverage for imaging tests to screen for breast cancer and diagnostic imaging tests for breast cancer for certain covered persons without requiring any deductible co-payment, co-insurance, or any other form of cost sharing. A health insurance policy issued or renewed on or after January 1, 2024 must include the required coverage imposed by this measure, and any provisions of the policy that conflict is void.
Thank you. Committee, questions, comments? None? I just want to say to Vice Chair Lang, I really appreciate you bringing the bill. I've gotten so many calls from women. It shouldn't depend upon your gender or your wealth or lack thereof in terms of whether or not you're able to get health care. So thank you so much for bringing the bill. I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion from Vice Chair Lang and have a second from Senator Stone. Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. And I will assign this to Vice Chair Lang. Okay? And with that, I will turn the gavel over to our Vice Chair, and we will begin with Senate Bill 402. 402.
Okay, as we move into public testimony and bill hearings, I just want to remind people that we have a timeline that we try to stick to, and so when you're giving your public testimony, please try and be as brief as possible. If you're going to testify about something that someone has already testified about, it's okay to say ditto or echo. And make sure that you give your card and sign in at the clipboard over at the table. Chair Spearman, we're ready when you are.
Thank you. And for the record, I am Senator Pat Spearman. I represent Senate District 1 in North Las Vegas. I'm happy to be here to present with my co-presenter, Mr. Scott Rutledge, a bill that would create the Cannabis Mentorship Pilot Program. And the main reason that we're doing this is because all of us, I think, recognize and can agree that many of the people who were put in jail and some who lost certain rights, et cetera, were the ones who perfected the business plan, and now they cannot participate. And so what this bill is designed to do is to level the playing field so that those who may not have $20 million can at least learn the trade and work their way into the cannabis business. And so with that, I'll turn the microphone over to Mr. Rutledge.
Good morning, and thank you to the committee for hearing SB 402. Thank you, Senator Spearman, for asking me to help present this legislation. My name is Scott Rutledge with Argentum Partners. I'm not here on behalf of any of my clients, but as an advocate for social equity and inclusion in Nevada's cannabis industry. I'd like to provide some additional context into the ideation and formation of this legislation, and then walk you quickly through the sections of the bill. It goes without saying our industry suffers from a lack of diversity and inclusion, but it should also be noted that there have been ongoing efforts to change this. SB 402 is the next chapter. In 2021, the Nevada Legislature passed AB 341, which created Nevada's first ever social equity licenses for cannabis consumption lounges. In the fall of 22, 10 prospective licenses were awarded, and since that time, a number of industry professionals and consultants, including myself, have provided pro bono or reduced cost services to assist these applicants with every aspect of their applications for the conditional licensure. These individuals, many of whom have never owned a business, have worked tirelessly to complete business plans, work on standard operating procedures, financial statements, and other required components for their applications. Most, if not all, of these applicants have struggled to identify financial partners and are faced with mounting pressures to do so. SB 402, unfortunately, will not help solve for the challenges of our current class of social equity licensees. But we should make every effort going forward to provide future social equity business leaders, whether they choose to pursue licenses or not, the tools and knowledge they need to be successful in Nevada's cannabis market. In determining how to best design a program for social equity entrepreneurs to succeed, a number of factors were considered. Develop relationships with existing licensees and ownership teams in Nevada's cannabis market. Build expertise in cannabis finance and taxation. Create a strong foundation in regulatory compliance, and foster an understanding of the ever-evolving business practices of a tightly regulated and federally illegal industry. What we do hope to gain from the diversification and equity that can come from this cannabis mentorship pilot What do we hope to gain from the diversification and equity that can come from this cannabis mentorship pilot program? Innovation through fresh ideas and lived experiences that are not currently part of our industry's ecosystem. An energy and perseverance that can only be born from hardships and struggles in the face of adversity and systemic challenges. New business owners that will increase equity and diversity, faces that do not resemble the current leadership and ownership structure in our industry. Now I'd like to take you quickly through the sections of the bill. Sections 3 through 6 provide definitions for the Cannabis Mentorship Pilot Program. Section 7 establishes the Cannabis Mentorship Pilot Program for persons who have been adversely affected by provisions of previous laws which criminalized activity relating to cannabis. The program will provide these persons the opportunity to receive training, experience, and mentorship in the cannabis industry in Nevada. Section 7, subsection 2 places the administration of the program with the Cannabis Compliance Board, which is tasked with developing and implementing the program. The cannabis establishment licensees, as sponsors, will provide employment and one-on-one training and mentoring of the participant by the owners, officers, managers, or other persons in charge of the business operations. Additionally, the program requires periodic reviews and evaluations of the performance of the participant during the mentorship period. Section 7, subsection 3 requires participants in the program be limited to persons adversely affected by previous laws which criminalized activity relating to cannabis. Section 7, subsection 4 directs the board to establish regulations for the program, including additional participant eligibility requirements, requirements for cannabis establishment licensees to serve as sponsors, and establish goals, benchmarks, and performance metrics for participants in the program. Section 8 covers the application fee for participants, conditional approval, and notification to participants. Section 9 describes the process timeframe by which a participant receiving conditional approval must select a sponsor, enter into a written mentorship agreement, and obtain an agent card. Section 9, subsection 2 covers requirements to be found in the written mentorship agreement to be submitted to the board, including the rate of pay and any benefits, as well as the duties and responsibilities of the applicant and proposed sponsor during the mentorship period. Section 10 indemnifies cannabis establishment licensees as sponsors. This section has actually been stricken in the amendment, but it was an indemnification clause. We can speak to that during the rest of the presentation. Section 11 prescribes monitoring by the board and reporting by the participants and or sponsors during the mentorship period and provides for a certificate for the participant upon successful completion of the program. Section 12 requires the board to open a licensing round no later than October 1st, 2027 for 10 cannabis establishment production licenses to be made available for participants who have successfully completed the program and received a certificate pursuant to Section 11. Section 16 provides for a certificate of eligibility for transferable tax credits to cannabis establishment licensees who participate as sponsors at the commencement of the program. The tax credits cover the cost of the participant's salary and benefits during the 2-year mentorship period of the program. Upon the completion of the mentorship, the sponsor may apply for a certificate of eligibility for a transferable tax credit in the amount of 3% of the tax owed for the 1 year after the termination of the mentorship period. Section 16, subsection 3 places a cap of $10 million on the transferable tax credits and also allows for the balance to carry forward if not fully subscribed. Section 16, subsection 4 places an expiration on those transferable tax credits after 4 years upon issuance. Section 17 addresses forfeiture and or repayment of those tax credits due to fraudulent information or misrepresentation to obtain any portion of those tax credits they are not entitled to. And Section 18 requires the board to prepare and submit to the governor and the director of the LCB for transmittal to the legislature or ledge commission when the legislature is not in session an annual report on the transferable tax credits. Now, before we move on to questions from the committee, I want to say thank you to my friend Aisha Goins, who's not in the Carson City today, but she will be presenting down in Las Vegas in support. Aisha did the work that no one else would do after we established the first round of social equity licenses by setting up something called the Pathway to Ownership program down in Clark County. And this program took a number of interested social equity prospective applicants, individuals who were looking at potentially applying for one of these lounge licenses through a number of different programs. A number of my clients, myself, and others participated in those programs. It was done voluntarily. There was additionally some funding provided through Clark County, but it was sort of a Band-Aid on a situation. And I can tell you that only through her advocacy and commitment to this community, to her community, It inspired so many to apply for these cannabis consumption licenses. The work she and her team at CEIC have done in the absence of a program like the one that SB 402 contemplates laid the groundwork for why we are here today. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
And just before we do, I, I want to also applaud Aisha Goins because she was in this building about almost simultaneously when we started talking about medical marijuana. And many people kind of looked at her and don't know what she's doing, but she kept it up. And one of the definitions of a pioneer is being willing to go down a path that has not been created before and unafraid to continue even in the face of daunting pressure to quit. So thank you, Aisha. Stand for questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any questions from members of the committee? Senator Pacina.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair, and thank you for the presentation. And this is more of a question because it's just something I'm not as familiar with. I noticed in Section 12, it mentions that one of the participants from the program, or many of the participants hopefully, can apply for applications for issuance of an adult use cannabis establishment license for a cannabis production facility from participants who've been issued the certificate. What's usually required to apply for those? And again, this is just because it's something I'm not really familiar with.
Scott Rutledge for the record, through the chair to Senator Pacina.
Please go direct.
Thank you. This will not change the existing licensing application process. To apply for one of these licenses, in addition to the standard requirements, you will be required to present one of these certificates. That's the only difference.
Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Mr. Rutledge, the question I have, and I was listening to you go through the sections of the bill to make sure, as you know, one of the things that we're seeing in the cannabis industry, or cannabis in particular, is the growth again of the illegal market. Those who participated, you mentioned in your remarks at the very beginning that there were some who pioneered the model, the business model of this, and of course for their efforts, many of them were jailed, and so they want to be able to participate legally. Is there anywhere in here that contemplates? And one of the things that I'd like to see is that black market, that illegal market, start to dwindle again. And so, if for some reason any of these participants were to go through this pilot program to try and get their license, but it's discovered at some point that they may be involved in the black market. Is there anything that you contemplate here that says then they're immediately removed from the program and not allowed to go back into it? And just is there a penalty for that? Is what I'm looking for, because I really want to see us look at that illegal market.
Scott Rutledge for the record. Thank you for your question, Senator Hammond. That was not contemplated in this legislation. To participate in this program, the individuals will receive an agent card, have to go through a background check. The goal here is not to place individuals with companies and say, we'll see you in 2 years with a certificate, right? This is going to be an intense program. And as is envisioned through the regulatory process of developing this, there will be regular check-ins by the CCB. They'll be working directly with ownership and managers. So it had not been contemplated, because what we're looking at here is very likely individuals that will be spending an inordinate amount of time with the leadership of these licenses. That's why the program would work. If there was a request to add something, we could certainly contemplate that. We have not seen that with the existing lounge licenses that also worked with these social equity individuals. And I would say that anybody in the cannabis industry, whether it be a current bud tender, an owner, what have you, if they are caught violating those laws, they will have their agent card revoked. So I'm not sure we need to do anything different, but I would refer to the CCB on that, because they handle the enforcement.
And I appreciate the answer, and you're probably right, because they're going to be checking up on them quite a bit. But it's not unheard of. I mean, we've seen reports of people in California, for example, that are part of the legal marijuana industry, but also part of the illegal marijuana industry, where they're actually making money, and then the legal one where they're not making much money or maybe breaking even. And so the temptation is there. I just want to make sure we're allowing people to understand when they come to a program like this, where we're creating a pathway for them, that we are dissuading them from getting involved at all in that other industry, the black market.
Again, Scott Rutledge for the record. One thought might be, and this would go to the promulgation of the regulations, is an attestation that says if I get chosen to participate in this program, I understand I can no longer or shall never participate in the illicit market again. Something like that. I mean, we require this of owners and other folks when they're signing attestations. And again, I would refer to the CCB on this, but I think there are certain things in place and some things we could probably add in the application process.
That's good enough for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Daly.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So, real quick, my question's in Section 16, and I think the bill is, going in the right direction. I have no issues with that. I was just curious about the transferable tax credit portion. So I understand they'll get credit for the full amount for the 2 years that they have somebody on this, and then eligible for up to 3% of their total tax bill in that second year. So do you anticipate that 3% would be like more than they were able to get from employing people? Or was that part of the design to encourage them to use the people? Or were you not intending it to be more than what it would do to have a person employed? And it would cover all of the compensation, right? Any benefits and all that? Okay.
Scott Rutledge for the record. Senator Daly, at the commencement of the program, as part of the contract or written agreement between the applicant and the sponsor, they'll determine salary and benefits, and then at the commencement of the program, the licensee would apply for that transferable tax credit in the value of for the total value of the salary and benefits for that 2-year period. Upon a completion of the program and a certification of that applicant, the license that that individual was attached to through the program, whether it be a production license, retail license, cultivation license, would then be able to apply for a transferable tax credit for up to 1 year of the 3% against the tax for the year directly after the completion of that program. I would need more clarification, I think, from the Department of Taxation to understand how they would structure that. But the goal is essentially to incentivize those sponsors to do this because this is, again, a voluntary program. We're not mandating licensees participate, and that was how we thought we might incentivize them to do so.
Follow up. So, so if I heard you right, the 3% is likely going to be more than the amount they would get for the employee by design, and that's that. I just wanted to make sure that that was the hook or whatever to try to get them to participate. If I can have one other question, Madam Chair, and it's more of a comment, and I just wanted to be clear to follow up on my colleague's previous question about the illegal market and all that kind of stuff. So when we say, just on the record to be clear, and and I think I know the answer already, right? So when we say that cannabis or marijuana is legal in Nevada, it's only legal under the conditions that we've said you can do it in lounges, in your house, et cetera, et cetera. We see people in public, but nevertheless. But it's only legal if it's purchased and used from a licensed vendor, someone that was licensed to grow it, someone was licensed to package and distribute, someone was licensed to retail it. Any other use is still illegal, correct?
Scott Rutledge for the record. Senator Daly, possession of up to an ounce, as was what was passed in question 2 in 2016, and is my understanding that you could buy product from a dispensary today, take it home, put it in a Ziploc bag or some other container, right? And as long as it meets the threshold for possession, the law enforcement's not looking to find out whether that product came from a legal dispensary or not. I will say that one of the goals of this program, and we've seen this in some other states, it's sort of the legacy to legal market. We have, and this has been a big discussion this session, and I've participated in a lot of these discussions with my colleagues in the interim. If we can provide pathways for individuals that are working in the legacy market or illicit market or have, and transition them out of that market into an opportunity to participate in our regulated market, then that is just one way. There's no silver bullet, but that is one solution. It's a market-based solution. By the way, these licenses are not just going to be handed out. It'll be a merit-based application process. They're going to have to figure out, not only during their mentorship program, but in leading up to that licensing round, they're going to have to get everything together like a normal applicant to apply. This bill does not contemplate funding. We thought we would take the first bite of the apple and set up a program, but because the licenses aren't available until 2027, I definitely will be back talking about a funding mechanism in 2025.
And if I might just say, Madam Vice Chair, nothing in this bill changes existing law. The only thing we're doing is using existing law to set up a pilot program so that there is indeed more equity in the industry.
Thank you. Senator Stone.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The way I understood with the presentation that this will be limited to people that have been previously convicted of a cannabis crime. And I'm in full support of that. I think it's horrific that we still have people that are in prison in states that for cannabis crimes where cannabis is obviously much more acceptable today legally than it was in years previous. So when you look at somebody's record for this program, are you just laser focused on whether that they did in fact have a marijuana conviction? Are there any other crimes that would preclude them from coming into this program? In other words, what if they were trafficking heroin or fentanyl, or what if they had a violent criminal past? Is there any other issues that would negate their eligibility for this program?
Scott Rutledge for the record. Senator Stone, I think that might be a question best answered by the CCB, because what this program does is model the current social equity program. And we have an existing social equity licensure program that looks at not only did you have that violation, but it looked at some census data that you had to live in a certain area in the last 5 years, et cetera, et cetera. Those will apply to these applicants to just participate in the program. If undergoing a background check to receive that agent card, there are other violations that were not reported, then it would be my understanding they would not qualify because it could not receive an agent card.
Okay. Please understand I'm in full support if somebody has been convicted of a previous cannabis crime. I love the mentorship program. I believe in mentorship programs. They didn't exist when I graduated from pharmacy school, so I went to the school of hard knocks and made errors and did some things right. And one thing that I think is missing in our high school curriculums is financial literacy, which your program is going to help, because they need to understand financial literacy if they're going to get a license in the business and understand, they can have accounts payable, accounts receivable. And so I love the program, and I hope that in this legislature that we see more mentorship programs for other industries other than cannabis, for inclusion and equity for everybody to participate in, because small businesses are the heartbeat of this country, and I love giving entrepreneurs that really believe they can be successful in their head, may not have maybe weren't born into money. I wasn't born into money. I worked hard for what I've been able to accomplish in my life, but everybody deserves a shot at the American dream. And I think that's what you're trying to do here today, and I commend Senator Spearman for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, we'll go to public comment. If you'll step back. If you wish to testify in favor of this bill, please come to the front desk. Each person will be given 2 minutes. And remember, if somebody said something that you want to say, it's okay to say ditto or echo those comments. We'll start right here.
Good morning, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Erica Roth, ERICAROTH, on behalf of the Washoe County Public Defender's Office, testifying in support of SB 402. Our support stems from the fact that this bill will help correct historical wrongs in the criminal legal system and ensure that those who have been harmed by unjust laws are made whole and able to contribute to our economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. John Puro from the Clark County Public Defender's Office. I want to echo the comments from the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. That saying, this bill creates a pathway to equity, a pathway for people to get back into the legal industry and create a life. So we are in strong support. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Anyone in Las Vegas wishing to speak in favor of this bill? I see one. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Aisha Goins, AESHA Goins. Black Joy Consulting. I'm speaking on behalf of Cannabis Equity and Inclusion Community, CEIC. I want to thank Senator Spearman and Scott Rutledge for presenting a bill that would absolutely change the trajectory of a future disenfranchised person. The illicit market is a symptom of the lack of access from the legal market. What this bill is aimed to do is to create that access. It's unfortunate that so many people have had their lives wrecked and have had generations of persons criminalized and also traumatized by the war on drugs. Consistently, I show up and fight. Consistently, I show up for my community to ensure their access to this legal market. It's unfortunate that we have to keep asking for access. It should just be granted. This is another opportunity. I have started Pathway to Ownership. It was a very stressful program to the point where I have committed to not move forward with the program because the funding doesn't support those persons who have licensees, who have licenses. And that's, we continue to present places where we want social equity to be successful, but we don't fund or add programming to what that should look like. So I appreciate Scott Rutledge and I appreciate Senator Spearman for presenting this bill, and I urge the committee to support this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Goins, and thank you for what you do to help people. Anyone else? BPS, is there anyone on the phones wishing to speak in favor?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 402, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, committee. For the record, my name is Quentin Savoy. That's Quentin. Last name is S like Sam, A like Apple, V like Victor, WOIR. I'm the vice president of CEIC, and I'm deeply grateful to the sponsor and Ms. Goins for their unrelenting work in creating equity and opportunity in our communities. The disparities that we see in the cannabis industry did not happen overnight, and they won't be fixed overnight. It's going to take intention. And this piece of legislation is intentional about creating greater diversity, inclusion, and equity in the cannabis industry. Through these measures, we can promote economic growth and job creation in communities that have consistently and historically been marginalized. We strongly urge your support. Thank you very much for hearing us today.
Thank you for calling in. Next caller, please.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. I see someone step to the desk in Las Vegas. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tamara Favors, TAMARAFAVORS, and I'm in support of SB 420. I'm a community member living in Las Vegas. The cannabis industry has a long history of disproportionately affecting communities of color. The Social Equity Cannabis Mentorship Program will help to address this issue by providing opportunities for individuals from underrepresented communities to gain experience and knowledge in the industry. I have personal experience from my family members being in cages, and that was the only way that they could be on the road to thriving. And having a father having 2 strikes and seeing him in cage was not the best for me growing up, and having the support of my father not in the household. And so having this program will ensure people coming after him, and as well as myself, to actually have a way to earn money would be a thriving portion of a better community. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this bill? Okay, if not, we'll go to those in opposition. Anyone in Carson City wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, anyone in Las Vegas? Seeing none, is there anyone on the phones?
you would like to testify in opposition to SB 402, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone wishing to speak in neutral in Carson City? Anyone in Las Vegas? And I think you said there was no one on the phones, but just checking to make sure there's no one in neutral.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 402, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working.
Hello, my name is Gerald Mays with the NAACP. That, for the record, that is GERALDMAYES. And I missed the call, the queue earlier for in support.
Please go ahead.
This is hello.
Please go ahead.
Yes, this is in support. This is Gerald Mays with the NAACP. We are in support of this bill because of the long history of disproportionate affecting communities of color for this social equity cannabis mentorship program, and it is important that we put together some sort of mentorship or pilot program to help the individuals who would benefit the most. Thank you.
Thank you so much. BPS, are we clear, or is there anyone else?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Senator Spearman, would you like to do a few closing comments?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And I certainly appreciate the support that we have within the community. I just want to say a couple of things. There may be some who think that this is not necessary for equity, but I would direct their attention to history. In 1971, then President Nixon started what he called the war on drugs. But those of us who lived in BIPOC communities know it was really a war on our communities. And if you doubt that, all you have to do is go back and look at the sentencing structure for those who were convicted of crack versus those who were convicted of cocaine. And so on and on and on and on and on. And now we have legalized what some people are still in jail for because they had 2 joints in their car. And if you doubt that there's inequity in our system right now, I'm not talking about across the country, inequity in our system right now in Nevada, all you have to do is put up a picture of all the licensees. And then ask someone about the hurdles that they have to jump through just to participate. And so what this bill really does is it corrects an inequity that many people didn't even want to recognize existed, but it does. And I'm a firm believer that what you don't face, you can't fix. And so we have to face the fact that the war on drugs was really a racist system that attacked communities of color. It was not successful, and sociologists have proved that year after year and time after time with statistics. So I just want to thank the committee for hearing the bill, and I want to thank those who showed up in support of the bill. And I think it was David Livingston who said, hold on, I look for the quote because I want to attribute this to, and I hope she's still here, Aisha. If you have men who will only come if they know there's a good road, I don't want them. I want men who will come if there is no road at all. And so I would like for the record to show that this bill is not a result of me, but this bill is actually a result of the hard work that she did over the last 5 years when no one else thought it would be possible. So thank you, Aisha. That's all, ma'am.
Scott Rutledge for the record. I just want to clarify a couple of things, especially for our friends in the industry who are watching this hearing, who are reading this legislation. This is not a mandate. This is voluntary. There's no I've spoken with the senator a number of times about what is opportunity. An opportunity doesn't guarantee outcomes, but we should guarantee equal opportunities as best we can. And when those opportunities have not been made equal, then it is incumbent on us to work, and it's incumbent on our industry to work towards these ends. So I do hope that we can work with the industry to gain more support for this bill. That licensing date of 2027, that's 4 years out. I think between now and then, we can do some of the things to address some of the concerns that have been brought up, as in we've done a market study to see how many more licenses we do need, et cetera, et cetera. I will also focus in on this. The reason we chose production licenses is because you'll hear conversations about there's oversupply, or we have a lot of challenges with folks cultivating cannabis. By the way, standing up a cannabis cultivation requires a lot of funding. Then we hear about we don't need more retail outlets because right now we're cannibalizing each other on the retail front. So we said, well, let's not go that route, right? We've developed these lounges. We decided not to continue with that license type. Production licenses are in the center of the cannabis marketplace. A production license allows somebody who has an idea to bring a product to market to work with a facility that technically could be a 500 square foot kitchen co-housed inside an existing production facility. We see this happening today in our marketplace. So we were looking for low barrier to entry in terms of startup costs. We were looking for something that didn't create additional product or overwhelm the market with additional product. In order to have a production license, you have to use product that exists in the market today coming from existing cultivations, and you have to sell it to existing retail stores. So I do think we were pretty thoughtful in how to structure this, and hopefully that will address some of the concerns that may be brought forward. Thank you again for your time, and we ask for your support of SB 402.
Thank you. And with that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 402, and we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 386. Senator Spearman, when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I think I'll rent this space for the duration of the meeting. I have some co-presenters. I think Mr. Marcus Allen and Gwen Brema are at Grant Sawyer, and I'd ask them to come to the table at this time. Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Lang and members of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. For the record, I am still Senator Pat Spearman, representing Senate District 1 in Clark County, and I'm pleased to come before you today to present Senate Bill 386, which seeks to improve barriers for barbering students and apprentices in order to expedite the licensing process, enable them to begin working and making an honest living. This bill was brought to me sometime last year, I think it was, with some of the students who were taking a test and were not able to pass it, and then the requirement to have to go back through, and that is a lot of money for a lot of people. The barbering profession has been an integral part of our communities for centuries. Barbers do much more than just cut hair. They are essential service providers who contribute to the social fabric and well-being of our neighborhoods. As skilled professionals, barbers have the power to boost self-esteem, enhance personal appearance, and create lasting connections among community members. Despite the valuable contributions of barbers, the process of obtaining a license to practice this profession can be both time-consuming and costly. This is due in part to the various barriers that exist within the licensing process, such as extensive education requirements, complex examinations, and lengthy apprenticeships. These barriers need to be removed, and that is clear. By enhancing legislation that streamlines the licensing process, we can create more accessible pathways for individuals to enter the barbering profession. Moreover, removing barriers to licensing can also help address issues of economic inequality and social mobility. By making it easier for individuals from diverse backgrounds to enter the profession, we can empower more people to secure stable and fulfilling employment, ultimately improving the overall well-being. So summarizing Senate Bill 386 and those who are at the table, there is an amendment that they constructed. Unfortunately, it came after the time that the bill was drafted by LCB, but I have accepted the amendment, and they'll speak more on it. Existing law mandates that to become a licensed barber or a licensed barber, an individual must pass an examination conducted by the State Barbers Health and Sanitation Board. If the applicant fails to pass the examination, they must either practice as a licensed apprentice for an additional 3 months, if not licensed, as not a licensed cosmetologist, or complete further study in a barber school before being eligible to retake the examination. Senate Bill 386 proposes that the applicants for licensure as barbers or apprentices who fail to pass the examination be allowed to retake the examination without fulfilling additional requirements, so long as they retake the examination within 1 year of their initial examination. And that is the biggest change in this, and I think that those who were at the table had some additional comments to clarify exactly what the bill is trying to do. So, Madam Vice Chair, with your permission, I'd like us to go to Las Vegas.
Please.
Good morning. Hello. Good morning, Senators Spearman and the committee. Thank you for allowing us to present today. My name is Gwen Bramo, G-W-E-N, last name Bramo, B-R-A-I-M-O-H. The revisions that we were recommending was less than the 1 year, and reason being, if an individual completes the barbering program, which is the 1,500-hour program, and they take the exam, for the first time, if they, sometimes individuals do have test anxiety and maybe make a mistake while they're testing, they could immediately go back and retake the exam without having to return to school for the 250 hours. But we were asking the committee to take a look at the 1 year. Multiple reasons for allowing them to go a whole year. One reason being, on the downside for the school, is they'll be considered as a completion with accreditation rates, but won't be considered as a licensee. The second reason, for health and safety and sanitation reasons and technique with use of the razor, they would really need to take that exam immediately once they find out what areas that they need improvement in or what areas they didn't actually pass in. If it was the practical, then they can go immediately back and retake the practical. If it was a written, they can go immediately back to retake the written exam. So that was the only revision that I think that we were pretty much requesting, is that the individual go back immediately so that they can actually go to work. The whole goal is, you've already spent 1,500 hours in school. We want to see our licensees go immediately back to work to be successful. That's the end goal. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
Marcus Allen, M-A-R-C-U-S, last name Allen, A-L-L-E-N, the owner and operator of Masterpiece Barber School, and also Masterpiece Barbershop 1, 2, and number 3. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Senator, for presenting this bill towards the committee. We love the ideal of it. We all need another outlook of everything, as far as me being an instructor and owner of a school, that my students sometimes get a little nervous and actually take the test, and some will fail, but we don't want to have them to go back to school for 250 hours, where it would take them 3 months to complete, and also pay another $3,000 out of pocket that they would have to spend. The only one who be able to gain from this is the school and the school owner, which is myself. Me, I like to earn my money on a positive level, not on somebody's failure. So therefore, we look forward to this bill right here, but the only thing that we have an issue with this is that the time length of the year that we had resubmitted, and I hope we don't overlook that and go back and look over it, because our accreditation don't allow us to go up to the year. So we can reconsider that with the changes. We would love that, and thank everyone for their time. Appreciate you.
Good morning, Senator Committee. Thank you for hearing us today. My name is Antoinette Maestas, A-N-T-I-N-E-T-T-E, last name M-A-E-S-T-A-S. I'm here on behalf of the Barber Board. I am the Secretary Treasurer. After hearing the cries from our licensees, our school owners, the board had public meetings on this. They decided, yes, we are in favor of this. We need to break this barrier.
What the board decided was on letting the student take the exam 3 times, or 3 different times. So they would take the exam, they'd have 3 different times before they'd have to go back to school. So initially, essentially they'd take it 4 times without having to go back for that 250 hour. The board felt that after 4 times of taking it, if they're still making the mistakes that they're making, they probably need a little bit more education. So we are in favor of this. The year is a long time to take it. We've heard the school owners, what their concerns are with it. And I'm here if you have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so the timetable that's listed in the current bill will be changed, and that will be in accordance with the recommendations from the barbering schools, the barber board, and Ms. Gwen Bremo, who is on the Board of Cosmetology. And so with that, I'll stand for questions or direct questions down south.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Daly. Oh, he's waving now. No. Okay, I see no questions from the committee. You did a great job explaining it. If you'll step back from the tables, I will invite people that want to testify in favor to the table, both in Las Vegas and in Carson City.
Good morning, Vice Chair Lang and members of the committee. For the record, Dylan Keith, DYLANKEITH with the Vegas Chamber. As the largest and broadest business-based member organization in the state of Nevada, we are in support of Senate Bill 386. The Chamber believes that a barber's licensure applicant should be able to retest after being trained as described in subsection 1. The current requirements only prove to be a barrier to enter this industry and do not appear to have a substantial reasoning for their requirement. We would like to thank Chair Spearman for bringing this legislation forward to address this important issue and to create a more fair process as potential professionals work to enter the industry. We ask for your support for this legislation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. And seeing no one in Las Vegas, BPS, is there anyone on the phones?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 386, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Anyone in Carson City or Las Vegas wishing to speak against this bill? And I think you said there's no one on the phones. Is that correct?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 386, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, good morning, folks. This is John Carlo, the young gentleman from Southern Nevada, and I wish you guys a happy Good Friday. And I am speaking in opposition to this bill. Basically, for the reasoning, we need to be prioritizing the licensing of barbers that are apprentices, but make sure that they're legal citizens, because there are many apprenticeship programs in Nevada where basically what's happening, I've seen with my own eyes, apprenticeship programs are being opened up to illegal immigrants. And then you have legal people in Nevada, and there's no space in the classroom for our own American people. And this, hurts the African American community the most. And so I'm really advocating for them. And also, it doesn't go far enough to protect all the hairdressers during COVID. The hairdressers had a horrible time during COVID, losing jobs, not being able to work. And also, the apprenticeship program for barbers there should be less time required, because these people have to wait and do the apprenticeship program cutting hair, and it's too long of too much time where these people they need to go to work. We need to kind of cut back on the hours required so they can get to work. But yeah, so basically my main thing is making sure these apprenticeship programs and that there is enough room for our Nevadans, putting Nevadans first, and not illegal immigrants being allowed into these apprenticeship programs. Thank you guys, and I hope you guys have a good day.
Thank you. Any more callers?
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Stephen Jackson, STEVEN JACKSON. I am a co-founder of Original Barber School here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I would just like to ditto the co-presenters there in representation of we believe the students should have the chance to retake tests due to anxiety or issues that they may have come about during the testing, but we would like to minimize the from the 12 months to what has been recommended earlier today. Thank you.
So you're speaking in favor, sir? I think he was speaking in favor. Okay. Any more callers?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Anyone in Las Vegas or in Carson City wishing to speak in neutral? Seeing none, anyone on the phones?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 386, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So one of the reasons that the requirements for barbering and cosmetology are so strict, and I have to tell you that I have a nephew who is a licensed cosmetologist, licensed stylist, and he works down on the Strip, and have a couple other people in my family in other states. But the one thing that I know is very important, and many of you all were here when we put regulations on other forms of cosmetology, such as braiding, is that it's important for people to understand hygiene. It's important for people to understand chemical compositions and how they interact with different things, to include your medications. And so the hours that these professionals spend are very important to protect the public. That's number one. Number two, and I'm speaking for myself, unless I put on my ordained minister hat. This is Good Friday, and Christians around the world will commemorate the crucifixion of the carpenter's son. And our Jewish friends are celebrating Passover. And as I read both of the books that define those faith systems, I can't find anything in there that says illegal. I can't find it, and I've looked. Personally, I'm always offended when people say that, because I don't know that in Genesis 1 or Genesis 2, when God created the heavens and the earth and created humanity, that there was any stipulation, there was no asterisk that said illegal. So that's number one. Number two, the people who are finishing barbering school and are taking the test, they have already passed whatever else requirements that needed to be passed. And so personally, I'm always offended when people say things like that. There are no illegal people. And some people, you know, who are allergic to intelligent pills even sometimes use the phrase illegal alien. You know, and it's not like E.T. phone home. So I'm offended by that, my personal opinion, and just to make sure that people understand the hours and the necessary requirements for these professions is because they're needed to protect the public. It's not just about cutting snip, snip here and color there. It's about hygiene, and it's about making sure that you understand what's good for your customers, for your consumers. And so with that, and I probably have offended some people by saying there are no illegals, but you can see me after this and I can tell you why I said it.
Thank you. And we are going to round out Spearman Day today with, we're going to close the hearing on Senate Bill 386 and open the hearing on Senate Bill 426. Begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Just looking for my co-presenter. Okay, it's him right there. Okay. So, good morning, Vice Chair Lang and members of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. For the record, I am, again, Senator Pat Spearman, representing Senate District 1 in Clark County. I'm pleased to come before you today to present Senate Bill 426, which is a crucial piece of legislation that addresses an issue that has been of significant concern for our community: escalating rental costs. This bill aims to provide a relief to tenants while ensuring the landlords can maintain a fair and reasonable property investment on their properties. As we all know, Nevada residents have experienced a steady rise in rental prices, burdening many families and individuals who struggle to afford the ever-increasing cost of housing. The consequences of this trend are far-reaching and have forced people to make very tough decisions about their living situations, often leading to overcrowding, relocation, or even homelessness. According to a 2022 report from the National Low Income Housing Coalition, full-time minimum wage workers cannot afford a modest two-bedroom rental home anywhere in the country. In Nevada, at the time of the release of this report, a minimum wage earner would need to work 62 hours to afford a studio apartment, 74 hours for a one-bedroom apartment, 90 hours for a two-bedroom apartment, 128 hours for a three-bedroom apartment, and 154 hours for a four-bedroom apartment. We have enacted statutes to annually increase our state's minimum wage, but it is currently limited to a 75-cent increase per year, meaning that for a minimum wage earner, their wages are more than likely being outpaced by the increases in rental prices. To afford a two-bedroom apartment without paying more than 30% of income on housing, a Nevada resident would need to earn $23.70 per hour, according to the report. Increasing rents affects all of our residents. However, the data demonstrates that the gap between income and housing costs is largest for people of color, particularly women of color. And I might add there, one of the reasons why it is an inequity for women is because there has been a long disparity in pay inequity. More women retire in poverty than men because of the inequity that takes place in the workplace. And so that's one of the reasons, that's just one of the reasons. Across the country, the median wage for Black and Latino residents is approximately $6 less than that for white workers. Among renters, more than half of Black and Latino households are spending more than 30% of their income on housing, compared to 43% of white households. More than 70% of Black and Latino women earn an hourly wage less than that for one-bedroom housing. The standard argument against placing limitations on rent is that it will negatively affect mom and pop landlords. Well, provisions of this bill ensure that landlords can maintain a fair and reasonable return. However, the reality is that many of the rental properties in Nevada are not owned by mom and pops, investors. Investors purchased 30% of single-family homes sold in our state, which is almost double investor purchases in 2020. And it is our responsibility as leaders to come together and find a solution to keep rents at a reasonable cost so that all Nevada residents have the opportunity to thrive. So I'd like to go briefly through some of the sections of the bill, and I have someone on Zoom who will go further and also answer any technical questions. The bill before you today amends existing Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, providing both landlords and tenants with clear guidelines and remedies to address rent increases. The primary goal of the bill is to strike a balance between affordability for tenants and reasonable return on investment for landlords. Section 2 defines cost of living increases. Section 3 requires the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry to annually determine and publish the maximum cost of living increase for the calendar year. The annual cost of living increase must be equal to the percentage increase from September 30th of the current year to September 30th of the immediately preceding year, which must not exceed more than 5%, using the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, U.S. city average, as published by the United States Department of Labor. The division is required to maintain such information on its internet site for at least 2 years. Section 4 of the bill limits rent increases during the first year of tenancy and in any 12-month period to the cost of living increase published by the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry. Additionally, it prohibits landlords from charging prospective tenants an amount that exceeds the maximum rent that previous tenant was charged or the advertised amount for the dwelling unit. However, certain exceptions and exemptions apply to dwelling units. Section 5 allows landlords to apply for an exemption from the cost of living increase cap if specific conditions are met. These conditions include operating costs exceeding the cost of living increase, capital improvements to the dwelling unit, changes in the amount of quality of services provided, fluctuations in property taxes, repairs due to damage, or any other circumstance established by the Housing Division through regulations. If a landlord violates the rent increase limits in Section 4 and Section 6 of the bill, provides recourse for the tenant. Tenants may apply to the court for relief, withhold rent without incurring fees, or recover actual damages along with additional amount equal to 3 months' rent. I would note that existing law, NRS 118A.510, protects tenants from retaliatory conduct by landlords in response to good faith complaints. Section 8 of the bill modifies the notice period of rental increases for periodic tenancies of 1 month for more than 60 to 90 days. Landlords must now include the amount of the increase, the new total rent, the reason for exemption, if applicable, and the effective date of the increase in their notice. Finally, Section 9 requires the division to determine and publish the cost of living increases for calendar year 2024 on or before January 1st, 2024. And Madam Vice Chair and Committee, I would just like to say one of the things that was extremely depressing for me, I represent Senate District 1, and it's not a district of wealthy people. My district also happens to have more people of color than any other place in the state. And it was very depressing to get calls, to get emails, to have people to stop me or whatever and say things like, "Do you have any place that I can go?" I heard from one constituent whose uncle was a stroke victim and had just come out of the hospital, and the landlord, and let me say this, all landlords aren't like this, okay? All landlords aren't like this. There are some bad actors that influence the caricature of good landlords, and it's to their own detriment. The uncle got out of the hospital, and the wife called me and said, "Senator, we need a place to stay. Do you own a house that we can rent from you?" I said, "No, I don't. Our landlord has given us 2 weeks to leave. And my husband just got out of the hospital. What am I going to do?" And so I directed them to Southern Nevada Law Center and said, "You may want to check with them. I'm not a lawyer and I can't give you that kind of advice. But in the meantime, here are some realtors that I know who have said to me, if anyone is calling and needs a place to rent, we may be able to help them find one." So this legislation is not an attack on any individual. It is really an attack on the situation and circumstances that have exacerbated the homelessness, not just in my Senate district and not just in Nevada, but across the country. And so with that, I will stop, and I think we have someone who's representing the Culinary Union.
Thank you. Please go ahead. Sir, you can go ahead.
Great, thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Senator Spearman. My name is Ted Papageorge. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the Culinary Workers Union. I'm here to talk about neighborhood stability and why Nevada's need SB 426. Nevada's need, I'm sorry? We good to go? All right, so Nevada's need strong, safe, secure neighborhoods. We have Wall Street landlords, private equity, large corporations buying homes, apartments, Airbnbs, cornering the market, raising rents beyond affordability, causing evictions and churns of residency, and creating a generation of renters and denying that generation the American dream of owning a home. For homeowners, that means we see neighbors come and go, and every homeowner has kids, relatives, and parents caught in the cycle of unaffordability. For renters, it means not able to afford housing, makes it much harder to be able to save up to own a home. Neighborhood stability, as we call it, is essential, and SB 426 is essential because this problem affects seniors, it affects first-time homeowners, don't have the ability to save up for that home, causes a loss of stable families in the community, turnover in our schools. Local businesses suffer when customers have to cut back because of these increases. You heard already from the senator specifics about the bill. I'd like to give some examples. An apartment complex, the Tides at Spring Mountain, owned by Los Angeles, California-based Tides Equities, raised monthly rent for one bedroom from $709 to $1,359, a 92% increase over a 3-year period from 2020 to 2023 in Las Vegas. The apartment complex Amber Ridge, owned by Westland Real Estate Group of Long Beach, California, went from charging $830 a month for a 2-bedroom, went to $1,300 a month, up 57%. And the rent for a three-bedroom at the same complex went from $973 a month to $1,800 a month, up 85% over a 3-year period from 2020 to 2023 in Las Vegas. An apartment complex, Vintage Point, owned by private equity firm Blackstone, raised rent for a 2-bedroom from $1,079 to $1,614, a 50% increase over a 3-year period from 2020 to 2023 in Las Vegas. An apartment, Positano, owned by Ovation Development of Las Vegas, which received 3.86% fixed rate HUD loans for Positano in 2019, increased rent for some 2-bedroom units from $1,222 a month to $1,434 a month, 17% increase over a 3-year period. In a 2022 survey of our Culinary Union members, 28% of respondents said that they pay a monthly rental assurance fee on their home or apartment. 21% said that their rent had gone up $500 or more. 21% said that they are charged monthly fees in addition to rent, and 15% said that they pay more than $100 in fees each month. So we have several other folks prepared to speak. I would just like to say that the Nevada Legislature has a responsibility to stand up for Nevadans and against these corporate Wall Street landlords. who are price gouging families. Neighborhood stability is the solution, and we urge political leaders in Nevada, both Democrats and Republicans across the board, to support and champion SB 426. And the Culinary Union would like to applaud and thank Senator Pat Spearman for her leadership on this bill and for her continuing to champion kitchen table issues for working class families. We depend on that, and it's extremely important. Thank you very much.
Mr. Papa George, would you do me a favor and spell your name for the committee secretary?
Yes, I would. Pappageorge. It's my last name, first name Ted, T-E-D.
Thank you so much, and we're ready for the next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Diana Valles, D-I-A-N-A, last name V-A-L-L-E-S, and I'm the president of the Culinary Workers Union. COVID-19 pandemic was a very difficult time for all of us. For Culinary Union members, it meant that 95% were laid off during the shutdowns, and many were out of work for up to 2 years at the hospitality industry. Slowly recovering, and conventions and business travel resumed. With tens of thousands of hospitality workers out of work, our union immediately responded to implement the Helping Hand program to provide over 430,000 packages of food to furloughed workers and Nevadans. We also helped thousands of workers sign up for unemployment benefits. We secure workers' right to return to their jobs, SB 386 right to return law, when business resumed. We advocated for several eviction moratoria. We passed the first and only in the nation COVID-19 worker safety statewide law, SB 4 Adolfo Fernandez law, during a special session of the Nevada Legislature. We went through a lot together as a union, but we stay united, and by God's grace, we are still here today. One thing we saw firsthand during the pandemic and the ensuing recovery was how working families were being pushed out of their homes by landlords who were price gouging and raising their rents, even though no new improvements were being made or new amenities weren't being offered. Workers' families cannot afford $500, $600 rent increases, especially with the high levels of inflation that has been happening. Neighborhood stability is the solution to protect working families and keep Nevadans in their homes. I ask the Nevada Legislature that you consider this bill to think about workers. Behind every worker in this state, behind every worker, there is a family. It's in your hands to protect Nevadans with neighbor stability. Culinary Union has a long history of fighting and winning for working families in Carson City. We have taken on Big Pharma to win diabetes and asthma drug transparency and worked for over 25 years to end surprise medical bills for all Nevadans. This year is not different. We continue to fiercely advocate for workers and Nevadans to have quality health care and neighborhood stability. One job should be enough to have a roof over heads and ensure Nevadans' youth have a quality mental health care access and education. Just like we have throughout our 88 years history in Nevada, the Culinary Union will stand together and win a future we all thrive. We urge the Nevada Legislature to support and pass SB 426. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. If I might, we have on Zoom, I think it's Mr. Paul Moore, and he was going to walk through the amendment. Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Moore with McCracken, Stemmerman, and Holsbury. I appreciate your allowing me to testify. I did want to point out, Chair Spearman has gone through the current BDR in some detail. I do just want to point out several features of the current version before discussing some conceptual amendments for your consideration. As Senator Spearman said, there are some exemptions from this measure for certain types of housing. So it does not apply if the rental unit is owned by a government agency. It does not apply in a situation where the owner of the rental unit lives on site. And it's a building that has 4 or fewer rental units altogether. So there's an exemption for owner occupied. It does not apply for new construction. So if a building is built on or after January 1st, 2024, it only becomes covered after 15 years from the date certificate of occupancy was issued. It does not apply if the landlord is providing reduced rent through a federal, state, or local program. And it also doesn't apply where the landlord only has one dwelling unit in the state. These were all exemptions that were important to keep the focus of this on large corporate landlords, and that's really what this is targeting. I also want to point out that Section 5 of the bill has language on maintaining a fair and reasonable rate of return. That is an important provision of this, both for policy reasons, so that landlords are able to maintain their properties and make capital improvements while at the same time limiting the rent increases that can apply. It's also important for constitutional reasons. So that provision serves both of those purposes. We have some conceptual amendments that I believe are before you, and there are two changes, substantive changes that we think are important to make. I'll talk about the retaliation prohibition first. This would be a new Section 7. As Senator Spearman discussed, current NRS 118A.510, which is an anti-retaliation provision in the current landlord-tenant statutes. Unfortunately, that provision, as it's drafted, would not create the level of protection against retaliation that this measure needs. And the reason for that is that the anti-retaliation provision in the NRS currently has an exception where the landlord increases rent uniformly for all tenants. And the way that provision is drafted, it would mean that if a landlord increased the rent for all tenants in an apartment complex in violation of this rent cap measure, then it wouldn't be seen as retaliation. And so we've included a retaliation prohibition that is targeted to the nature of this statute, and included that in the conceptual amendments. The second thing that we've done in the conceptual amendments is to put a little bit more meat on the bones of the exceptions, the fair and reasonable return exceptions, and to create a mechanism to make sure that tenants are aware that their landlord is seeking an exception from the rent control cap. Those amendments would, first of all, require that the landlord not increase rent until they have received the exception from the housing division. And that just clarifies that that exception has to be granted before the rent increase takes place, not afterwards. The second change would be to require that a tenant be given notice of the landlord's request for a hardship or fair and reasonable return exemption, and that they have an opportunity to be heard on the matter before the exemption is granted. We have made a few changes on the nature of the exemptions and included some new definitions of those changes. Specifically, we've included a new exception if the landlord or the rental unit is going to have an additional occupant. An additional occupant is not an additional family member, but an additional occupant that may increase the cost of maintenance. So that would now be a recognized form of exemption if it's required for a fair and reasonable return. Rather than having an operating cost measure for whether the landlord gets an exemption, we have included a more catch-all provision that says that the rent increase is necessary to meet constitutional requirements. Operational cost measures for exemptions have tended to be extremely complicated, including measurements about how much debt can be included in the operational costs and other issues. So we think it's better to give the housing division some flexibility, but to make sure that the constitutional minimum is abided by. And then both for capital improvements and for changes in the types of housing services that are being provided, utilities, laundry, other types of amenities, we've included some definitions that we think give a little bit more guidance to the housing division on how those provisions should be applied. Finally, for capital improvements and for repairs to properties, we've made clear that if the repair or the capital improvement is being paid for by a third party or a third party source, such as insurance or a court decision, for example, that those would not be then incorporated into the rent. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to address any questions that the committee might have.
Thank you so much. Committee, do you have any questions? Senator Stone?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the presentation, Senator Spearman, Madam Chair. A few comments. First of all, during COVID, yes, tenants really had a rough time, but landlords really had a rough time too. In my particular case, as you know, we weren't able to evict, not that we would have as a small landlord, but we had an accounts receivable that exceeded almost $100,000. And since I've moved here, we have never evicted a tenant, and we've never lost a tenant because of an increase in rent. So what I've heard today is that you mentioned there's good landlords and there's bad landlords. I've always considered myself a compassionate landlord. But my first question is, and it seems like the corporate landlords are the most egregious after what I've heard today about increasing rents because they have shareholders that they have to respond to. But my first concern is, why would you put a 15-year exemption from this new law for any new construction when, you know, their base rents would be established when they start renting their units? And right now, the cost to build a typical apartment in Nevada is at or higher than $400,000 a door. So while they may have a lower rent to get people in to fill their units up, you can expect in the years to follow that you're going to see exorbitant rent increases because they have to make a return of an investment for their investors. So my first question is, why would you put a 15-year exemption from this, basically exempting the very people that you think are the most egregious when it comes to raising rents on tenants trying to make ends meet here in Nevada?
So in answer to that question, first of all, and I think another speaker will
State your
address
name.
this. Sorry, this is Paul Moore for the record, and in answer to the senator's question. Many of the corporate interests are not just building new construction, but they're also buying existing properties. So this would address that element of their investment. The 15-year waiting period before a new property is covered by this is part of a series of constitutional considerations about what a fair return on investment is. And this is a conservative approach, but it's an approach that we think is necessary in order to avoid a claim that this measure is precluding new construction from making up the costs of investment of the new construction. So this is essentially a constitutional consideration that has gone into that.
Okay, so you mentioned two things. You mentioned new construction and you mentioned existing construction. To me, this creates an unequal playing field for smaller investors that are going to have caps on their rent increases, not to exceed 5%, even though you may have an inflationary factor like we do today of 8.5%. So I don't know how the Constitution protects these institutional buyers of properties from not being held accountable for rent increases, but smaller landlords, mom and pop landlords that have more than 4 units, they're going to be subjected to this. So I don't think this is an equal provision of a law, which is, and you don't have to respond. Other concerns that I have are, when you are a sophisticated landlord and you're kind of dealing with present day technologies, you want to make it easy on your tenants to review their charges and to be able to pay their rent and then charges with an online portal. We do that for our tenants, and there are separate line items. So they may have a line item for their utilities, maybe their electric or their water. There could be a separate line item for their trash. There could be a separate line item for their renter's insurance. Would we be able to pass those? Those are basically pass-through charges. We don't make a profit on those. Would we be able to still pass those through, or would that be cumulatively considered as a part of the 5% rent increase?
The rent increase, and this is Paul Moore for the record, again, in response to the senator's question, the rent increase would include all of those elements and would be capped at 5%, all of those elements that are included in the rent. There is, however, through the exemption, the ability to have a higher rent charge for those exact things. Those would be included in the definition of housing services that are part of the rent.
Okay, because we don't have any control over the rise in the utilities and the rise in trash and the rise in renters insurance. So what you're going to see landlords do is they're going to say to the tenants, you just go ahead and apply for those utilities yourself where possible. And your renter's insurance, although we can provide it less expensive than insurance companies can, which is another story. And then you talk about exemptions. Is there going to be any statutory time limits where we have to hear back when we file an exemption? Because you're dealing on a month-to-month basis and filling an apartment or a condo that is available. And let's say we do capital improvements, which we routinely do. We have a capital improvement plan for our units where we invest sometimes $15,000 to $20,000, put new flooring, new paint, new appliances, new HVAC units. So then we can't charge more than the previous tenant was being charged, yet we invested tens of thousands of dollars to improve these units. And now we got to go through an exemption process. But if the exemption time period, and government always doesn't work very fast. We could be waiting 2-3 months before we get an answer. I hope that we can see some amendment in this that requires the agency that's going to be doing this a statutory time period where they have to get back to us. Otherwise, it's very unfair to the landlord. Also, I also think that there needs to be a definition. How do you define reasonable return on investment when there are so many variables that different landlords have to contend with? As an example, I have some mortgages, not many, on some of my units that have to be taken into consideration. I don't see that the County of Clark is giving me a break on property taxes because I have a rent control, but they want their property taxes and they want it on time or they're going to foreclose on your properties. I have a full-time maintenance supervisor that makes sure that he gets in there same day when there's an issue, especially when you have an HVAC issue during the winter when it's cold, and certainly in the summer when it's hot. We don't make our tenants wait 3 days with fans. We actually go in there, and if we can't fix the problem, we put them in a hotel. We provide for no-cost exterminations. In some of our areas, we have homeowners association dues, which very rarely go down. They usually go up. And if you have an HVAC disaster, usually that's a construction cost of about $10,000 to $15,000 with the new technologies, the more green mandates that are placed on these. So these are a number of my concerns. My concern is that you're exempting these larger builders. I would imagine because you don't want them to be here in opposition because they're the lion's share of the issues that I think are being discussed here today. And listen, I always applaud Senator Spearman. I think she's a tremendous advocate for working class people, blue collar people. And I want you all to know that I came from a working class family. I came from a poor family. So, I mean, I've worked very hard to get to where I've gotten to today. And to create all these bureaucratic pathways that I have to go through to justify what I can charge a tenant, not to exceed 5% when inflation is 8.5%. So you're already requiring landlords to take a 3.5% hit. But to exempt the most egregious causes for increases in rents when we're here $500, $800. I have tenants that I don't even raise their rent. And I'd be happy to provide the committee with evidence of that we don't raise the rent on many of our tenants because I know they can't afford it. And two, we are a fair, compassionate landlord. But when you pass things like this, it's going to mandate basically that we do that because we want to make sure that we can make up for those years where we don't have the higher CPI index. And the last thing I'll say, Madam Vice Chair, and thank you for the time that you've yielded me. I greatly appreciate it. If you put these concerns on landlords, and I hope that you will universally include everyone, irrespective of whether they're a large corporate one or a small mom and pop like me, that if you put these caps, you are going to hinder investment. And if you hinder investment, it's going to exacerbate the supply and demand issues that we have here in Nevada. Right now, we have a shortage of housing. I would say for every vacancy we have, we might get 30 or 40 applications. And by the way, we only take one application at a time. Usually 90% of the time we approve them before we take a second one. So we're not an application mill. But the smaller moms and pops, instead of dealing with this and maybe not even be able to make a profit without going through some onerous bureaucratic processes, they're going to sell the property to owner-occupieds. And you're not going to have the availability of rentals here. And people are not going to maintain their properties like I maintain my properties. Like I said, we do about 10 refurbs a year from top to bottom. And you're going to have landlords that just aren't going to do improvements to their units. And I have a philosophy in my own units that if I wouldn't live in the unit the way it's in the condition it's in, I wouldn't expect a tenant to. So we make our units beautiful.
So, Madam Vice Chair, at the risk of stopping the speech, I just want to go to Professor Getz, who can provide some data, because it is my understanding that the tenants, no pun intended, of this bill were not drafted in absentia. but were drafted based upon empirical data. So, Professor Getz?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Edward Getz. I'm a professor of urban and regional planning at the University of Minnesota, the director of the Center for Urban Affairs at the university. There is some research on the impacts of rent stabilization programs around the country, and I'll try to just focus on the issues that were being spoken about just previously. First is that in terms of hindering investment, I think that is sometimes considered in two different ways. One, will it hinder investment in new construction? And many programs incorporate a new construction exemption in order to avoid any kind of perceived disincentive to new construction. There have been studies in New Jersey, Massachusetts, in California that do not show really any evidence that the construction of new housing falters in the presence of a rent stabilization program. And that construction cycles are much more dependent on larger business cycles, local land use policies, et cetera. In terms of the other type of investment, which is the maintenance and upkeep of properties, there is some evidence that minor or more aesthetic kinds of maintenance will suffer in some cases. There's a study of Massachusetts that showed that although there were chronic aesthetic declines in the rental housing stock, that major systems were maintained over the time period. And that was really because most large capital improvements can be passed through in this process of reasonable rate of return. Study in New Jersey showed no significant impact on investment levels or housing quality. Really, the only study that showed a significant sort of impact on the decline of the housing stock was a study of New York City, and it was restricted to rent-controlled units, which had a very hard cap on them, and that's unlike the types of rent stabilization programs that you see around the country and the type that is being proposed here. So I'll stop there for now.
Thank you. If I can continue, and I'll conclude very shortly.
Yes.
Thank you for your testimony. I appreciate your input. How do you, sir, if you don't mind, how do you define reasonable rate of return? How is it calculated?
Well, that, again, Edward Getz for the record. That's defined in different ways in different places. I think that this is, as Mr. Moore pointed out, a provision of the law that is in place both for constitutional concerns, but also to make sure that landlords have the opportunity to make appeals and get exceptions to the rent caps when it's necessary. In answer to your question, I would only say that I've never had to do that. I have looked at different definitions. Most rent stabilization programs that exist, you can read the language online on the websites of the cities, and I would just say that it is sometimes defined very specifically, and sometimes it is defined in practice by the review agency that is responsible for hearing these appeals.
And then just one final question for you, sir. If this, as this bill purports, if it's going to exempt new construction from any rent control provisions for 15 years, doesn't that put existing investors at a disadvantage when they're capped, but their competition can garner more rent when there is an existing shortage of housing? It probably isn't going to get fixed here for another decade, although I hope it does. But doesn't that kind of create an unfair playing field?
Well, an exemption for new construction exists in every rent stabilization program that exists in the United States. There isn't a single one that does not have an exemption for new construction. And as to the fairness of it, I think that's an issue that is resolved locally. I think that these exemptions exist so as to not disincentivize the new construction of housing, because of course the overall supply is an important concern as well.
I think you said the right word, disincentivize investment. You're absolutely right. If we had blanketed rent control, nobody would invest in Nevada, nobody would invest in Chicago, nobody would invest in New York City. And that's what creates an unfair playing field and doesn't really accomplish the real goals of what I think the author is trying to accomplish. But thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair, for allowing me the time to share my concerns. I hope that the author will consider having a level playing field for people that have historically, small moms and pops that invested in Nevada and expect a return on their investment, and be compassionate about making sure that people in Nevada just aren't numbers, but there's a person behind every door that we care about. During COVID, we personally delivered baskets of over-the-counter drugs for our our tenants that were sick with COVID, to make sure they didn't have to go out of their homes and get the medications. We did that at our own expense. So there are compassionate, good landlords out there, and I think that many of them are going to get hurt if we don't have some equal provisions under the law here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the committee have questions? Seeing none, if you'll step back, we will go ahead and do public comment. And because culinary is a part of this conversation, and I noticed in Las Vegas, there are a whole lot of people standing in the back because there aren't enough chairs. And I want to be able to recognize those people that came to testify. So if you are here and you're testifying in favor of this bill, would you please stand in Las Vegas? Okay, thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 30 minutes of testimony in favor. We'll do 2 minutes per person because there are, the reason I had everyone stand is I wanted to kind of get an idea of how many in totality we had, and there are a lot. And I want to make sure that we give everyone ample time. So we'll do 2 minutes for 30 minutes. If someone is going to say what you're going to say, please say ditto. That way more of your colleagues will have a chance to be able to testify as well. Then we'll do 30 minutes of opposition, and then we'll do 30 minutes of neutral. And then if we have time, we'll go back and circle around and have more people that want to speak in favor. I hope that meets with everyone's expectation, and we'll start up here in Las Vegas. Ms. Lockhart.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Marlene Lockhart, and I'm representing SEIU 1107. We support this measure. Limiting landlords from raising rent higher than the cost of living would help protect tenants from exorbitant rent increases and ensure that they can continue to afford their homes. This would promote greater stability and security for renters, which is especially important in today's challenging economic environment. Additionally, the legislation includes exemptions for landlords who can demonstrate a legitimate need to increase rent beyond the cost of living, which provides a fair and reasonable balance between the interests of landlords and tenants. Overall, this legislation has the potential to benefit both renters and landlords while also promoting greater housing stability and affordability for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair and members of the committee. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak this morning. For the record, my name is Susie Martinez, and I am the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Nevada State AFL-CIO. And on behalf of over 150,000 members and 120 unions, the Nevada State AFL-CIO supports Senate Bill 426. Working families are stretching their paychecks in unimaginable ways to make sure that they can afford housing. Nevadans have been experiencing a high cost of living, and the housing crisis is burdening our families, and wages fail to keep up with inflation. In order to elevate the stress that Nevadans are feeling, it is critical that the state regulate rate increases and ensure that the housing crisis isn't further exacerbated. It's simple. Every single Nevada family deserves to live in a stable and affordable living. I'll just tell you a real quick story. We have one of our carpenters retired. He was telling me the story. He comes up to me and he's like, Miss Martinez, I know you were a legislator in the past. You've got to know some people who can help. He goes, my rent used to be about $900. He goes, it is now over $1,200. I'm like, oh wow, Joe, you got lucky. I've heard some that are much, much worse. But that's still a lot for him. You know, he's retired, he's in his 70s. I mean, and I'm sure many of you guys. So I said to Joe, did you get new appliances? He's like, no, Miss Martinez, I did not. I said, did you get new flooring? He's like, no, Miss Martinez, I did not. I said, did they paint your house? He's like, no. He goes, actually, it's getting deteriorated because it's getting older because they have not done that. So, you know, the struggle is real. You know, this is, and I'm sure many of you guys, as we've all canvassed, have heard these stories. This is not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. Because if all of you canvassed for your campaigns, you were all very well aware that this is a big problem in our wonderful state. So I'm thank you to Senator Spearman for bringing this bill. And Senator Stone, if I ever need to rent something, I would be more than happy. I know that you would take care of me and I would rent from you. So thank you for being an honest man.
For the record, my name is Mark Ellis. I'm the president of Communication Workers of America, Local 9413. And first of all, I'd like to thank Senator Stone for being an exception to the rule instead of the rule. But because he's the exception and not the rule, we strongly endorse this bill.
Thank you.
My name is John Solomon. I'm a member of Faith in Action, and I'm strongly supporting SB 426. When I became a landlord, I'm a POP landlord, being a single parent, I felt I was doing something for the community of Fallon, as during the housing crash, many houses in my neighborhood were empty, and it felt like the community was wounded. By cashing in stock options I had earned at my job, my small business was the method houses could be purchased, renovated, and put up for rent, reinvigorating my neighborhood. It was also a very good business decision because not only was the value of my properties increasing, but I received income from the rents paid. They are now my retirement income. With the very adequate carve-outs for capital improvements, unexpected maintenance costs, and the allowance for upgrades of the properties and tax increases, this is a very reasonable model for rental properties, which will help neighborhoods throughout the state maintain and increase quality of life. If I'm reinvesting, improving my properties, I will be able to raise rents to recoup my investment, and this will encourage other landlords to do the same, which is good. It will slow what is occurring now, the moving of hardworking income of the tenants out of their neighborhoods with nothing to show for it. To infer that this will slow down creation of new housing stock is absurd because it doesn't set limits on new rents for new units. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, members of the committee, Jonathan Norman with the Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. We are definitely in a housing crisis. I think everybody in this building and around the state feels that. Our self-help center at the Justice Center in Las Vegas receives 300 to 500 people a day who are being evicted. We routinely hear the phrases, they can't raise my rent $500. It is illegal, right? And the answer is always no. It is illegal in our state. And in fact, coming out of the pandemic, a flyer from industry circulated titled, Raise the Roof, No Rent Caps in Nevada. Without action in this legislative session, the elderly and disabled are going to become homeless in large numbers. The biggest issue in 2025 will be those elderly and disabled people who are homeless. Finally, this crisis is not merely about the most vulnerable, the elderly and disabled, but it's also about the ability of everyday working Nevadans to own a home as corporate landlords leech wealth from our state. Our country is great because we have a middle class that thrives, a middle class built by unions. To create generational wealth, those middle class people have to be able to enter home ownership, and when rents are this high, they cannot save enough for a down payment. We are in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christine Saunders, and I'm the Policy Director with the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada and a founding member of the Nevada Housing Justice Alliance, here in support of Senate Bill 426. We started our coalition in 2020 to bring tenant voices, which has often been left out of policy conversations, to the legislature. In the past 3 years, we have drafted a robust policy agenda, conducted Know Your Rights trainings, assisted in filing CHAPS applications, responded to summary eviction notices, and even helped people move. Out of the thousands of tenants our coalition has spoken to, there's one issue that has risen to the top statewide. Rents are just too high. And this is a broadly felt issue. In the past year, nearly all of the plan staff who rent have received at least a $200 a month rent increase. Unchecked rent increases push families' budgets past the breaking point, forcing them to choose between paying their rent or buying essentials like food and medicine. These financial hardships can cause families to deplete their savings, push them into homelessness, and send them into a spiral of poverty. When a family loses their home, they have a small window of time to come up with what is often thousands of dollars to move. Finding an affordable vacant home on short notice often means moving away from their current school, daycare, support network, and place of employment. Seniors, people with disabilities, and people with health issues are particularly at risk when they lose access to their care providers and communities. Neighborhood stability will help keep families in their homes when the rental market is stacked against them. People can afford to stay in their homes, which allows for diverse, mixed-income communities to grow and thrive. Families also no longer face the risk of retaliatory rent increases when they ask for repair or dramatic increases in rent that are intended to evict them. And when rent stabilization policies are in place, landlords can raise the rent only when they keep units safe and maintained. Rent stabilization policies both protect tenants and include provisions that make the system fair for landlords. This year, Nevada legislators have the opportunity to address our state's housing crisis by passing neighborhood stability, and we urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to Las Vegas.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Isabel Gonzalez. I've been guest room attendant since 13 years and 3 years of culinary union. I'm here today in support of SB 426, neighborhood stability. I'm a single mother of 3 boys. 2 are still living with me. I've been a renter on the east side of Las Vegas since 2013. I paid $1,700 for rent right now. With fees and down payments, they were asking me for nearly $3,000. I'm from just to move in. As a single mother of 3 children, it is hard to come up with that amount of the money. The rental market prices has changed a lot over the past 4 years. It was now very difficult for me to afford rent as a single mother. Everything has gone up except our wages, and as a guest room attendant, when the rooms aren't cleaned daily, that impacts my job and the ability to afford my bills. Companies try to cut housekeeping jobs, and I worry that I will have less hours and won't be able to make a rent. I do my best to protect and provide for my children, but the highest rent makes everything very hard for my family and I. We need help. I hope I motivate the Nevada Legislature to support SB 426 and protect other single moms like me who are renters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, Senator Spearman, members of the committee, for the record, James Katzen, K-A-T-Z-E-N. I'm speaking for myself and for the people. On February 14th, 1776, a very knowledgeable man named Thomas Paine wrote a book called Common Sense. We don't have much of that today, in my understanding. It's unfortunate. He said that society is produced by our wants, government by our wickedness. And there's a lot of truth in that. And not everybody is one or the other. We're all a blend. But I was a property owner in Phoenix 40 years ago, and I was governed by legislation that defined the relationship between property owners and the occupants, and it led to a much easier relationship all around when you knew what you were supposed to do on both sides. The occupant should take care of the property, and the owner should also provide a good place to live at a reasonable amount for the person that's living there. I'm in favor of this bill. I had the honor with my cohort here to be in Carson City just about 36 hours ago, and 48 hours ago I was honored to take Senator Spearman's hand and speak with her there in person. And I urge everybody that can possibly ever do that to go up to the Capitol and see what's going on up there, because we send these people there
I'm
and we
sorry,
must
your
tell
time
them
is up.
what we need to have them do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning, chairs, members of the committee. My name is Sakura Nishikawa, Sakura-Nishikawa. I have lived in Vegas, Nevada for over 20 years. I'm a volunteer for PLAN, and I'm here today to support SB 426. My ways of income mostly relies on tip as a food runner. Most of my income goes to rent. The rest goes to food, gas, and clothes. I'm suggesting to pay rent, and I'm worried about how many other people in Nevada who only make minimum wage to survive by themselves without any government aid. Even my grandma, whose husband just passed away a month ago, now can barely afford to pay rent with her Social Security. What will happen to her if her rent goes up? Over 10 years ago, I knew a grandma who worked at Wendy's because she needed to pay rent. I remember this crystal clear because I'm the one who trained her when I was 18 years old. Please, I urge you to support SB 426 to stop elders from working for minimum wage jobs just because they couldn't afford to keep up with the rising cost of rent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Hi, my name is Steve Borgia. I'm a porter at the Bingham's Casino, old downtown. I've been a culinary union member for the past 7 years. I'm here today to support SB 426. I first rented my apartment about 7 years ago. It was Amber Ridge Apartments on the east side of Las Vegas. During the pandemic, my mother-in-law moved in with us, and she helped out a little bit with her disability, and my wife had stopped working due to medical reasons. We've been more than 2 years that my wife's been trying to get disability. My rent's gone up pretty good. For the first time when I started there, it was $9.15 for 4 years. Then it went up to $9.65. They promised a gated community. The gated community still has not been raising up, but they still turned around and took away our pool privileges because of COVID, our gym privileges because of COVID. We lost a lot of stuff at our apartments. They also raised it up the year after for another $100. I was paying $10.65. Then they raised it up again. Now I'm paying $11.60. I'm the only one working in my apartment. It's hard. It's hard right now because I'm going through medical problems. I tried to get another job to help out, to make ends meet. Really good, but it's really hard for me because I have medical reasons, and I just found out last night that I have heart problems. So it's going to be hard for me to find out if I'm going to be able to continue working, and we really need to stop this rent increases. It's really hurting our families. We need people out there like you to support us and help us keep our dignity, for our work.
Thanks so much.
We work for this.
Thanks so much. Next person, please.
Mi nombre es Celia Vargas, soy recamarera en el Street Las Vegas, soy sobreviviente de cáncer, tengo 64 años de edad. Con mis 2 hijos estoy aquí hoy apoyando la SB 426, Estabilidad del Vecindario. Durante la epidemia, mucha gente en Nevada atravesó tiempos difíciles, incluyéndome yo y mi familia. Mi hijo tuvo un derrame cerebral diabético hace unos años y no puede trabajar. Estaba luchando para ayudar a mi hijo a pagar sus medicinas. Así, para ayudar económicamente y ser más estable, nos mudamos todos juntos. Ahora vivo con mi hija y mi hijo adulto. Pagamos $2,000 de renta, el alquiler sigue siendo costoso. Como solo mi hija y yo estamos trabajando, tenemos que tomar decisiones difíciles cada mes para poder pagar el alquiler todos los meses siguientes. Estoy bien, estoy feliz y agradecida de que la Unión Culinaria y la senadora Spearman esté asumiendo esta lucha para todas las familias trabajadoras como yo. Les pido a los líderes de Nevada apoyen la estabilidad del vecindario SB 426. Gracias.
I'm just going to translate. My name is Cecilia Vargas. I am a guest room attendant on Las Vegas Strip. I am a 64-year-old cancer survivor with 2 children. I'm here today to support SB 426 neighborhood stability. During the pandemic, a lot of people fell hard times, including my family and I. My son had diabetic stroke a few years ago and is unable to work. I was struggling to help my son pay for his medicine in order to help each other out financially and be more stable. We all moved in together. Now I live with my adult son and my daughter. We pay $2,000 a month in rent, and it's still expensive. Since only my daughter and I are working, we have to make difficult decisions some months so that we can afford to make rent every month. I am happy that Culinary Union and Senator Spearman is taking on this fight for the workers' families like me. I ask Nevada leaders to support SB 426 neighborhood stability. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please give me her name one more time? The translator, your name?
It's my name?
Yes, I need your name.
Oh, Alma Lozoya. ALMALOZOYA.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carlos Padilla. I am a baker and have been a culinary member for 30 years. I remember when my rent was $1,200 a month for a 3-bedroom just a couple years ago. Now I'm paying $1,800 after getting another rent increase recently. I asked the landlord if the increase was a mistake. They responded by telling me that there was no law in the state that the landlord cannot raise the rent prices more than they have recently. The high rent has tremendously affected me financially. Now I'm budgeting between rent, food on the table, and other necessities. I would love to own a home one day, but the way things are going, I won't be able to save up for one. I got involved politically with the Culinary Union for the midterms. We knocked on over $1 million and hundreds of other canvassers in 2022 to talk to voters about neighborhood stability. We supported political candidates that supported neighborhood stability and who believe in fighting for working families to stay in their homes. Affordable housing should be for everyone who wants to own, but rental prices and hidden fees are making it almost impossible these days. I am proud of the work I have done with my union to drive this conversation that something must be done about high rent. Working people cannot be pushed out of Las Vegas, and we need to do something now. I urge the Nevada Legislature to support and pass Neighborhood Stability SB 426. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Hi, I'm Christine Schackinger, Kristine Schacchinger. I moved to the state of Nevada in 2004, coming from the state of Virginia. I was so excited when I moved here that I could live where I worked, because in Virginia I had to live 70 miles away from my job because I couldn't afford housing. And that was most people that I knew. I'm afraid for the future of Nevada because I'm afraid that's the way we're going to go. When I moved here, my rent was $780. Over the next 14 years, it only went up $300 to $1,080. In 2008, between 2018 and 2022, it went up almost 100%, almost $1,000. The first jump was $250 for improvements, which is acceptable in my view. Last year was $385. When I went down to talk to my landlord about it, they told me they don't negotiate, and there's nothing I could do because I could raise it as much as they want. So now I'm paying $2,000 a month. This year, for 3 bills that I have to make $52,000 when you add in taxes. That's medical, student loans, which is only $400, and rent, which is 60% of that. So if I don't make $52,000 every year, I can't afford to live, and I make good money. I'm a consultant, and I'm afraid I won't be able to make rent the next time they increase my rent, which will be in 3 months. So in 2018, I only needed to make $35,000 a year to cover all those 3 bills. That's a $20,000 a year almost jump in 4 years for my basic needs, not including food. I'm not including anything else in that $52,000. So if we don't do something, we're either going to wind up like Northern Virginia, where you have to live 70, 80, 90 miles away from where you work to afford housing, or we're going to have to move. And that will unfortunately be my next decision if they raise my rent $300, $400, $500, because I can't even afford that. I don't know how anybody here with the average income of $50,000 a year is able to afford this.
Thank you,
So if you
ma'am.
don't do anything, if you don't help us, the city will suffer from massive moves out of the city. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I want to remind people that are standing in line and waiting in the audience that I allocated 30 minutes. We have 10 minutes left. If you get up to the microphone, it's okay for you to say ditto, so more people have an opportunity to speak. In 10 minutes, we're going to stop testimony in favor and go to opposition, and then if we have time, we'll come back around again. So next person, please go ahead.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Andy Romero. That's ANDYROMERO for the record. I'm here representing Make the Road Nevada, a Nevada-based nonprofit that elevates the power of working-class immigrants, communities across the state. We're in support of SB 426. In Nevada, our members, along with many other Nevadans, have been subject to skyrocketing rent increase from some landlords. We hope this bill will aid most of them, like seniors and single parents and people with disabilities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Oh, hello, good morning. For the record, my name is Sean Navarro. I'm here representing Las Vegas DSA. Speaking to tenants, it's a very common story. Folks will say, our rent's gone up $200, everything's broken. I like to mention, right now, many landlords are not making necessary improvements because they know they don't have to. Tenants feel that they have no recourse, they have no representation. They're losing hope in finding a better living situation, let alone owning a house. I like to say that when we're talking about the effects of this bill, we're debating against landlords and tenants. The effects for tenants is that folks are going to be forced out on the streets. And while today you're seeing amazing showing of force and amazing gathering in community, a lot of the folks most impact are not here because they're either working 2 or 3 jobs or they're forced out of their homes and their own house. I think this is a bill that cannot be defined by numbers on a sheet, but it goes to the very soul of what kind of state we want to live in. This is a state built by the workers, and I think we have to, whatever we do to the people who are most in need, is a judgment of the state itself. I also like to say that too, that for me, I believe housing is a human right. I know it's a very controversial opinion to many people, but in the past, Medicare and Social Security were controversial. Equal rights for women and people of color were controversial. The 5-day work week controversial. I think that it's an idea that time has come. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Hello, my name is Melanie Arizmendi, MELANIE ARIZMENDI. I am 23 years old, and I'm a daughter of immigrants, a Las Vegas resident, and a student who is a child of a culinary union member. I'm here today in support of SB 426. Growing up, I had to move around a lot, mainly because of the unaffordable price of housing. During my childhood, the Great Recession happened, and we lost our home to foreclosure in 2008 when I was 8 years old, and that was very traumatizing. In 2012, my mom was able to get a good job as a guest room attendant, cleaning rooms at a casino on the Las Vegas Strip, and she became a culinary union member where she was able to get great benefits for our family. My parents were able to save money and purchase the North Las Vegas home that we live in now. Before the pandemic, I was living on my own with my boyfriend in a 3-bedroom apartment with 2 other roommates. Then the pandemic hit, and my roommates and I all had to move back in with our parents. Now my boyfriend and I are still living with my parents in North Las Vegas and waiting to move out once we can find an affordable apartment, but the rent is just too high right now. I support neighborhood stability because something has to be done to ensure young people like me can move out without every paycheck going to rising rent. Me and other young Nevadans deserve a chance to have a successful future. Please support SB 426. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the phones for the rest of our time for those speaking in favor. Those people sitting at the table, just stay there for right now. Let's just go to the phones real quick.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 426, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Serena Evans, SERENA-EVANS, and I'm the Policy Director for the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. Ditto to everything that's been said, I do just want to remind you all that housing justice and neighborhood stability are violence prevention programs, and we urge the passage of this bill as the safety and success of our communities depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Hello, Vice Chair Lang and fellow committee members. My name is Brian Harris, and I'm the voter education organizer at Battleborn Progress, and I'd like to call into support SB 426. I'd like to ditto the comments made by those before me, and I will be sending in the rest of my testimony in support. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. Next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Lilith Barron, Lilith, with the ACLU of Nevada. We strongly urge your support with this bill. We have seen nothing but the exacerbation of homelessness through measures like this not being taken. Last session, we left it to landlords to make the right decisions and do the right things, and they did not do that. Instead, they posted that they would like to raise the roof on everyone, and that they did. These are your farmers, your teachers, your waitresses, your staff, for your businesses and all of the people that make Nevada great. Making these people choose between food, medication, and the rent is not the Nevada way. This is not the way that we should be conducting society. If we would like to get serious about school discipline issues, if we would like to get serious about housing, crime, all of these problems that we are trying to solve here today, this is a wonderful place to start. I appreciate that Senator Stone might be the only landlord that does the things that he said that he does. As a lifelong renter and a 35-year-old, I have never seen a landlord do the kinds of things that he is saying that he does. I'm sure that many of us would love to see that. However, we know when people are left to their own devices, they are not going to do the right thing. Being a landlord is not a job. It is an investment. And when things like a global pandemic happen, they do not sometimes get returns on their investment. And that is just the way it is. Everyone else wants a free market. This is what a free market is. There is a global pandemic. You do not get returns on your investment. We are very sorry, but people have to live somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hello, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Cy Burnaby. I am born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I have called this city home for more than 40 years. And I remember when this city went through a huge population boom in the 1990s. Housing was cheap, and it brought thousands of people and businesses here. It helped the economy surge and every community thrive. Now rent is rising faster in Nevada than almost anywhere else in the United States. This is shameful, and this is a housing crisis that will lead to more homelessness. Fix this now, please. I am calling in support of SB 426. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Ireland. I have been a culinary member for 14 years. I'm here today in support of the SB 426 neighborhood stability. I currently pay $3,000 for a 3-bedroom house. I recently moved into a short-term rental for about a month with the option of extending it to June of 2023. I met with the property manager a couple of days ago, and they're only willing to extend my lease term if they charge me a couple more $100. I've only been living here for a month, and now they want to increase my rent already. I can't afford that. I can't even afford what I'm currently paying right now. I have 2 adult children, and my grandson is living with me because it's almost impossible for us to find affordable housing right now. The landlord is telling me that because of new events that are coming to Las Vegas, he needs to raise it. And right now he can, because tenants have no protections against that. Is that what the rental properties are going to do or be like now? Only short-term leases and constant rent increases until we are homeless? Las Vegas is my home, and I'd like to continue to live and raise my family here. But right now, the rent is just too damn high. Therefore, I ask Nevada Legislature to support SB 426, Neighborhood Stability, and protect Nevadans. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hi, good morning. Alexander Marks with the Nevada State Education Association. We're just calling in to echo all the sentiments. Maybe just add in that there's only a few places in the state where teachers can actually afford to purchase a home, and many are struggling to afford rent. So we would urge your support on Senate Bill 426. Thank you.
I love that word, echo. Thank you so much. Next caller, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Shelley Speck. That's spelled S-H-E-L-L-Y. Last name is spelled S-P-E-C-K, and I am providing testimony today on behalf of the Children's Advocacy Alliance and the Nevada Strong Start Coalition. It is all too often that we hear of landlords making record profits on the backs of tenants during our current housing crisis. We also hear of business owners complaining that there aren't enough applicants to fill open positions, and hence a cry of people just don't want to work. But more forethought needs to be put into why those open positions aren't being filled. If our current workforce is unable to find affordable housing, then our economy will not be sustainable. SB 426 can help address the stability of our neighborhoods and schools by potentially converting hardworking tenants into prospective homeowners. When the price of rent isn't hovering on the whims of landlords, only then can potential homebuyers begin to set aside savings to attain that dream of home ownership for their families. Thank you for investing in Nevada's children and families, and please support SB 426. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've reached the end of our 30 minutes, so people that are on phones, just hold on. We'll come back around for another round. My 3 people are at the table. I'm going to ask you to step back to the front of the line because I'm going to do opposition right now, and then you'll speak first in the next round. So if there are anyone in Carson City wishing to speak in opposition, please come to the table. If there's anyone in Las Vegas wishing to speak in opposition, please come to the table. Okay, we'll start with Carson City.
Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to be before you today. For the record, my name is John Sandy, here today on behalf of the Nevada State Apartment Association. Want to thank Senator Spearman in her efforts for this. I totally agree that she is a tireless advocate for working families in Nevada. However, in this instance for SB 426, it's our opinion that this policy could do more harm for those people we're trying to protect than good. While rent control and rent stability aim to make housing more affordable for low-income families, it can have a negative effect on the housing market and overall economy. Economists from around the world have rejected rent stabilization as effective in increasing the affordability of housing. A quote from Swedish economist Assar Lindbeck, a self-proclaimed socialist, is tremendously visual and visual on the impacts of rent control. Mr. Lindbeck stated that rent control appears to be the most efficient technique presently known to destroy a city, except for bombing. I recognize my time is limited, so I will limit my testimony to the 5 problems we see with rent control. Well, first, the reduced investment in rental properties. Rent control can reduce the profitability of owning rental properties, as landlords are limited in how much they can charge for rent. This can discourage landlords from investing in new rental properties, reducing the overall supply of rental units and exacerbating the shortage of affordable housing. Second, it reduces quality of the rental housing. Rent control can also discourage landlords from maintaining and upgrading their rental properties, as they may not be able to recoup the cost through increased rent. This can lead to a decline in the quality of rental housing and make it more difficult for tenants to find safe and habitable housing. Third, rent control apartments become scarce. Rent control can create a situation where a scarcity of rent-controlled apartments, which can result in long waiting lists and create black market for rent-controlled units. This can also make it more difficult for renters to find affordable housing, especially in areas in high demand. Fourth, the reduced mobility of the renters. Rent control can make it more difficult for renters to move to new locations for work and other reasons, as they may not be able to find affordable housing in a new location. This can reduce labor mobility and economic growth.
Mr. Sandy?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, your 2 minutes is up. Could
Okay.
you submit the rest in writing?
I'd be happy to do that. If I may just close.
Just close with the sentence? That'd
Yeah,
be fine.
I just, it's, in my opinion, a little unfair to characterize this as large corporations versus working families. I know Senator Pizzina was visited 2 weeks ago, and I was able to interact with the gentleman who was lobbying on his own behalf. He had spent his entire retirement to buy 2 properties in Sparks and in Carson City, and he was lobbying, in support of some of the housing measures and because it was so complicated for him to work through the process. I ask you to look at the amendments, and if a landlord like that wanted to increase his
Okay,
rent.
I'm gonna have to cut you
All right,
off.
I'm sorry.
But
It's just
good
very
try.
complicated. Thank you.
Good morning, Vice Chair Lang and members of the committee. For the record, Dylan Keith with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber would like to thank Senator Spearman for her intent, but the Chamber comes today in opposition to SB 426, as it is a principle of the Chamber to believe in the free market of pricing and remove burdensome government intervention in determining prices in a market. The Chamber has supported several other measures as we look at the severe shortage of housing in Nevada. There are currently, as of the last report that I saw in November, 80,000 units that need to be made to address the housing shortage. This bill will not do that. What will is speeding up licensing requirements and creating abatements for affordable housing units. The Chamber is in support of those pieces of legislation, but we do come forward and ask for your opposition to this piece of legislation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, Vice Chair Lang and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Mindy Elliott with Flynn Judici Government Affairs, today representing the Nevada Rural Housing Authority. We very much appreciate Senator Spearman and her proposing SB 426, and we are grateful for Section 4, Sub 3, that provides an exemption for properties owned by the government entities and for those properties that accept housing choice vouchers. However, the authority is currently opposed as we are concerned about the cost of implementation and the unintended consequences of this piece of legislation. We work hard in our service area to encourage more housing, and we are concerned that elements of this bill might discourage the expansion of our existing housing inventory in both rural and urban Nevada. We are happy to work with Senator Spearman and additional stakeholders, and certainly this body, to alleviate our concerns in SB 426. We thank you so much for your time today.
Oops, thank you. Let's go to Las Vegas.
Thank you. Keith Lynham with the Nevada Realtors, Chairman of the Legislative Committee. I'm here regretfully to oppose SB 426. I say regretfully because we feel the fear in the room, the fear of the unknown, the fear of loss of security in their homes, the fear of even finding that home. We sense the frustration. We share that frustration, which is why the Nevada Realtors have supported several affordable housing bills, such as AB 213, AB 310, AB 396, AB 416, SB 223, SB 395, just to name a few. I say regretfully because the out-of-state multi-billion-dollar Wall Street hedge fund that you're really mad at won't feel a bump. I say regretfully because you will be punishing the Nevada homeowner. Let's be clear. The mom and pop Nevada homeowner will be damaged and treated just as the Wall Street hedge fund you're mad at. Not one example cited in the presentation was from a Nevada homeowner. Let's not forget, Nevada Realtors, as stated in the fine senator's remarks, represent both sides of this issue. We represent the Nevada homeowner, and we represent the Nevada workers that rent those homes. This bill will do one thing. It will force our Nevada mom and pop homeowners, many of them who don't raise rents every year with their long-term tenants, will now be forced to rent at raise their rents at the maximum amount every year. This will guarantee a maximum amount of raises in those rents. If those rents aren't enough to cover their basis, they will be forced into selling their home, cutting into an already historically low inventory. We stand ready towards effective solutions to our housing affordability crisis, and we thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. Tom Blanchard, President of Nevada Realtors, BLANCHARD. I want to echo some of the words that Keith had said, but also, look, we need more homes. End of story. We've done such a great job of bringing people to Nevada that this is what we've gotten ourselves into. So we need more homes. But with this bill, will cause shortages in homes because less people will want to be going through the red tape, especially the mom and pops, right? They're not going to want to go through all the red tapes of having to deal with becoming and staying landlords. As a property manager, I know that there are great landlords like Senator Stone out there. There's more of them than you want to give credit to. We need to be mad at the institutional owners out there, absolutely, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater and kill all those great landlords that are really out there doing the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person,
Good morning,
please.
Vice Chair and members. Mackenzie Warren Kay with McDonald Crono on behalf of Ovation Development. We're here to provide our developer voice in spite of the exemption to new construction in the bill. We're also really proud to be one of Nevada's largest and leading developers of affordable housing for low-income seniors and working families. Ovation opposes Senate Bill 426. To begin, rent prices are beginning to flatten and even decline, and while it's never fast enough for residents in need of relief, Nevada's rental market is stabilizing. Last summer was a peak and an outlier. Ovation's occupancy rate was 98%. This is nearly max capacity. These are the same historic highs that we saw during the pandemic. And during the COVID emergency, Nevadans stayed put. Good landlords like Ovation honored our state's eviction moratorium. Then we saw the shift. People started moving, and they were confronted with that housing scarcity. Supply is the answer to this crisis. Nevada's housing supply does not meet the needs of our community. However, more product is starting to come online. Ovation has 1,400 units under construction now. We plan to break ground on approximately 1,000 more units later this year. And over the last 8 months, Ovation's average market rent has dropped $100 or more since last August. Again, amount not high enough, nor is it fast enough, but it is a move in the right direction. Rent control will squeeze the development pipeline. The appeals process in SB 426 does not cure the broken policy. And importantly, developers look well beyond a 15-year timeline when deciding to invest. To implement rent stabilization such as this amid a slowly healing housing market could disrupt the current market correction that is already underway. What do we see when policies like these are implemented? Capital investment disappears, property improvements become more scarce, the quality of our housing declines, and in turn, property values and tax revenues may
that's
also
2
decrease.
minutes. Could you please submit the rest of your comments in writing?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to continue working the bill. Thanks.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Seeing no one else at the table, I'll go to the, seeing no one else at the table, I'll go to the phones. Anyone in opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 426, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, we'll go to neutral. Anyone in Carson City wishing to speak in neutral? Anyone in Las Vegas wishing to speak in neutral? Is there anyone on the phones wishing to speak in neutral?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 426, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Wiz Rizard, but before I start, Chairwoman, I actually was online for opposition. If it could please you, I'd like to share that testimony.
You
Is that
may.
okay?
You may.
Thank you, Chairwoman. My name is Wiz Rizard, W-I-Z-R-O-U-Z-A-R-D. I am the Deputy State Director with Americans for Prosperity, Nevada. And on behalf of thousands of our activists, I urge you to oppose Senate Bill 426. Let me begin by first acknowledging Senator Spearman has been an amazing advocate for the middle class, for all Nevadans. And in terms of acknowledging the problems with her, we agree that there is a major problem, whether it's inflation, housing, and you look at prices across the board, it's a big issue. However, the solutions proposed here through 426 is not the way. And although the bill seeks to address some serious issues within the housing market related to price of certain rentals, it does create some unintended consequences with severe restrictions imposed on landlords, the housing market, and the proliferation of more cronyism to which government becomes more empowered to pick winners and losers. Senator Stone is absolutely correct. Rent control bills like SB 426 has proven harmful to many states and cities that have enacted it. And the most recent example, which I was hoping that one of the bill presenters' guests would have mentioned since he's from Minnesota, is the city of St. Paul in Minnesota, with their 2021 rent control law. And that law, which was immediately pulled by the African-American mayor, Melvin Carter, had thought that loss of real estate funding and the increase in rent prices was a result of that law. The adverse effects on an already high rental market would disincentivize more rentals entering the market, which would lead to higher prices and cause more housing affordability issues. Should SB 420 pass as written, small individually owned properties such as single-family homes, casitas, condos, multi-duplex may decide that it just makes more sense to sell. So if your goal is to help low-income families, we suggest that we can do that by unlocking economic opportunity by doing three things: rein in and reform burdensome housing, land use, and zoning regulations, eliminate cronyism and tax subsidies for billionaires and major corporations, which this bill actually does.
Sir, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Remove.
Your time is up. Would you please?
Thank you, Chair, and I greatly appreciate.
Submit your comments in
I
writing.
greatly appreciate the time, and please vote no on SB 420. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to start our second round. So we're going to, I see people standing in line. We're going to do 15 more minutes. We're going to go till 11 o'clock. And so if you want your voice heard, if you are saying something someone else has already said, please say ditto and add a couple comments so that the majority of the people have a chance to speak. So the only place I have a line is in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas, please come to the table. And when you're ready, please begin.
Hi, my name is Val Thomason. I'm here with the Democratic Socialists of America. I am a single working mother, and I've worked extremely hard to pull my family out of poverty. I did everything that I was supposed to do. I graduated college when I was in my 30s, and I found a career. But it didn't matter because every single dollar that I've earned from where I used to be has gone towards these constant and unrelenting rent increases. I've moved 6 times in the last 5 years because every time that I renew my lease, the rent goes up. And I don't mean by $40 or $50. I mean $400, $500. And that's every year since the pandemic. I live in constant fear that this next lease is going to be the one that locks me out of the rental market forever, because there won't be a path back in for people like me who have nowhere else to go. So I'm asking you, please support 426. The only people here who are opposing it are lobbyists, and I'm asking you to support it for us, the people, and the tens of thousands of children out there with single mothers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Shanika Cooper, and I am a hardworking home care worker here in the lovely city of Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm here because my family and I have been directly affected by the rent increase here. We've had to move several times over the past few years. Recently, I found a place, and my lease was up. I was served with a 30-day no-cause notice, and I immediately contacted the owner, which I was told not to worry. That was just his management property doing their job. After that, the HOA where we lived sent all the homeowners letters notifying them what they were charging tenants and what they could be charging. Upon them receiving that, I was immediately told that we had to move, which gave us 3 days to move. I begged the owner of more time because I have a son who is paralyzed in a wheelchair, and I would not be able to find suitable place for us to live. I was then told, take it as a hard lesson learned, and that was it. There was nothing else that he could do. So I'm here in support of SB 426, and I ask you guys to please help us here. This is a dire need for all of us. Thank you for your time, and thank you to Senator Spearman and all the members of the board for your support.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Hi, my name is Brenda O'Malley. I'm 19 years old. I'm a full-time minimum wage. I'm getting paid that, and the reason I'm here is because I'm barely able to make it. I have no kids. All I'm doing is insurance, rent, everything, and I'm already struggling. I can't imagine single mothers, single fathers. My brother, he got affected by it. He got into an accident. He had to move back in with us. The reason I'm doing this is because at the end of the day, we're all just humans. One job should be enough, no matter the age, no matter the color. At the end of the day, we shouldn't worry about having a roof over our heads for the holidays. We shouldn't worry when our next meal should be. What we should worry about is, the most we should worry about is what we're going to wear the next day. These are simple human things. These are necessities. These are essential. This is all, we need this to live, and yet we're struggling. We have to fight for it. So at the end of the day, I'm here because we really need your support on this. If you can't help us, who will? We have to fight for ourselves, and that's why at the end of the day, with this whole line, we're all here because we're fighting for the same thing. If we want to fight for each other, and we want to fight for ourselves. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Next person, please.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tamara Favors, T-A-M-A-R-A-F-A-V-O-R-S, and I'm speaking on behalf of Simba Perkins, S-I-M-B-A-P-E-R-K-I-N-S. And I'm in support of SB 426. I'm a community member living in Las Vegas. Neighborhood stability is essential because longtime residents are being pushed out of homes due to skyrocketing increases in rent each year after year. The policy is important because a lot of people are on fixed incomes or work part-time or just have one full-time job that does not pay enough. So they end up getting themselves into more debt by taking out loans or overworking themselves by getting more than one job. Therefore, taking time away from their work-life balance, then also some people are forced to live in bad communities due to rent, and it shouldn't be that way. Everyone should have access to clean, decent living and not houses with bugs and mold. I urge you to pass SB 46. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Barbara Perez. I am member the Union Culinary for 5 years. I am here for support the New York, the law neighbor stability.
Thank you so much. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Renteria, and I'm supporting the law as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next person, please.
My name is Angelica Camacho. I'm a member for the Culinary Union, and I support this law.
Thank you so much. Next person, please.
My name is Aaron Mahan. I'm a Culinary Union member, and I support neighborhood stability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
My name is Jufo Camacho, a culinary member, and I support neighborhood stability as well.
Thank you. Next person, please.
My name is Abigail Padilla. I'm a daughter of a union member. I'm currently with the union as a LOA. I just come here to let you guys know. Last year I haven't been working for quite a while, and last year I had to start working due to the rent raise that we got last year. And now as a mother, I'm a mother of 4, and I do have other 3 children that I'm guardian of. I've been feeling a lack of parenting. Due to that, I need to be focusing on work to help my husband pay rent, to try to survive here. I've been here since 1995, and I'm currently also battling with my 11-year-old of suicide. So this law is going to help us. I cannot imagine how single parents are dealing, being away from their kids. And I have the support of my husband, thank God, but knowing that I'm going through this, it's really hard. So I've been with my kids like soccer mom and stuff, and now I have to work to help my husband support our family, pay all this rent that we're getting, raise, helping my mother, because currently she can't be working from an accident that she has, so we've been struggling. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next person, please.
Hello, my name is Miguel Regalado, culinary union member for over 9 years, and I support the bill SB 426, the neighborhood stability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Mauricio Fonseca, and I totally support the SB 426.
Thank you. Thank you. Next person, please.
Hi, my name is Glenna Bolster. I'm a union member, and I also support SB 426.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Erica Lopez. I here support this bill because I the new owner. I buy my house then for my union, but that's not fair. The Alara Erica like me passing this. I passing 9 months saving for buy my house, living with other people in one room when my child, because my landlord give me one day increase me 600 in one time, and that's not fair for the families. I was single mother with my daughter, and a lot of people is passing this moment, and no is fair. That's the I support this law. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Hi, my name is Jesus Landeros, Landeros. I'm here in support of SB 426, and I joined the growing line of people here supporting the bill. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Next person, please.
Hi, my name is Patricia Lindsay. I'm a culinary union member, and I ditto.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning, I'm Daira Velasquez. I'm a culinary union member, and I support SB 426. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Armila Medina, and I'm supporting the SB 426. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Hugo Chug. I am supporting the SB 826. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Acela Martinez. I am a culinary union member, and also I am a single mother, and I support the SB 426.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Elsa Roldan, and I'm a culinary union member, and I support this bill.
Thank you. Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Ignacio J. Martinez, and I'm a culinary member, and I support this SB 426. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. I'm Lalo Montoya, Civic Engagement Manager at Make the Road Nevada, and we support SB 426.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good morning. My name is Erica Marquez. I am an immigration justice organizer with Make the Road Nevada, and I support SB 426. I'm here to speak on behalf of one of my members. He's a 73-year-old senior citizen who is surviving off of his pension, which is $800. He has his rent for $700. Him and his wife literally need to survive off of $100 a month. This is not fair. Housing is a human right and should be a human right. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Yusat Solomon, and I am supporting this bill. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Uriel Rodriguez. I'm been a culinary member since like almost a year. I support the neighborhood stability bill.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take two more people, and then I have to go to the phones.
My name is Rwanda Rogers, and I support the bill.
Thank you. Next person, please.
My name is Mauricio Garcia Lopez, Mauricio Garcia. I'm here to show my strong support towards SB 426, and I urge you all, Labor and Commerce, to do the same. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to the phones now. I think, is that one last person? Is that the last person? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ronald Portillo, and I'm supporting SB 426. I'm a union member. 226.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to go to the phones. I have some people that said they wanted to testify in opposition and neutral and didn't get heard. So I'm going to go ahead and continue the people speaking in favor. Then I'm going to go to opposition and neutral to pick up those people that we missed on the first go around. Okay, so we'll go phone if you're in favor of the bill.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 426, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, greetings, Chair and committee members. My name is Jackie Spicer, Jackiespicer. I am speaking as a lifelong Nevadan and voting constituent of Nevada Senate District 20. Senator Stone, you are my representative. You were elected to represent my family and my neighbors and not your personal financial interests as a landlord. No matter how you define and measure a return on your investments, that ROI is the profit you take from the hard-earned income of tenants in Nevada. This rent stabilization is long overdue. The majority of us are struggling to pay rent. This is about the hardworking Nevadans that you are supposed to represent. I urge you to support SB 426. Thank you.
Okay, next person in favor.
Mrs. Chair, I was actually in neutral, so I can wait for that time.
Okay, if you could
would
just
like for
hold,
me to-
if you'll just hold for a minute, I have one person in Carson City in favor.
Good morning. Thank you, members of the committee, madam. My name is Silvia Buenrostro, Silvia, last name Buenrostro. I am in favor of SB 426, and I echo all the other members and brothers and sisters who support this as well. And I just want to add that this will also help all of the community and as well as the landlords. As I have been seeing, living in an apartment complex for many years, how the rent has been increasing, and people who, even when the apartments are subsidized by government assistance, they get evicted. These apartments also get people who are just coming in and doing things that are not correct. Suffering the instability and the problematic of unsafety. And unfortunately, where most of the people, whether they're single parents or couples, they have to work, everybody has to go out and do a living, and it's just really unaffordable on these prices that are gouging constantly. So I'm trying to relocate to Reno and seeing all of these prices that are outrageous. It is really unaffordable for anyone who's making any kind of minimum wage. And having family and my children who are young, that we have to look out for their well-being also and their future, so that in some time they can also be independent and be able to be affording a place for them to live, as well as myself. Being able to look into a retirement where I'd be able to afford a place, where I lost my home in 2009 due to the economy crash. And I am now worried about my future, if I'm going to be able to live on my own or with children and be a burden to them. So please support this bill, SB 426. Thank you.
Thank you. And BPS, were we finished with people in support on the phones? And if so, we'll go to opposition.
Good morning, Vice Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Liz Sorensen. That's L-I-Z, last name S-O-R-E-N-S-O-N, and I am the president of the Nevada State AFL-CIO. I'm here today in strong support of SB 426. This housing crisis is real, and it's devastating to hear that people are having to choose between the rent and putting food on their table. I want to applaud the Senator Spearman for bringing forth this legislation. It's a start because the crisis is real and we have to start somewhere. So thank you. And I thank this committee and urge this committee to also support SB 426. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Quentin Savoy. That is Quentin. Last name is S like Sam, A like Apple, V like Victor, WOIR. I'm calling to you as president of the Las Vegas branch of the NAACP. We are in strong support of Senate Bill 426 and deeply grateful to Senator Spearman for having the courage to bring forth this very essential and important piece of legislation. We have a very real housing crisis in this state, and at the risk of being repetitive, I'll just say ditto. But really, I urge all committee members to consider the human aspect of how urgent this crisis is. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. And people on the phones, if someone said something you're saying, if you could say ditto, that would be great so we can get through everyone.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Edward Goodrich, EDWARD, representing the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, Local 363 in Reno. Our members are also having issues with these unethical landlords and stunning, unconscionable rent increases who need this legislation. I understand the issues of Senator Stone, and I really wish all landlords would come up to his standard as a landlord. If they did, Nevada would not need this legislation. Unfortunately, too many do not. Their business model seems to be pillage for profit. Our members are suffering greatly through no fault of their own, and many are taking close interest in this legislation. We support SB 426 and the palliative economic effect it will have on renters in Nevada, and ask the committee to support it as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hello, my name is Adrian Lowry. I'm an organizer with the Northern Nevada DSA. I want to say ditto to what previous people have said, and I would like to remind you that the majority of people in the state are not landlords. The majority are harmed by large increases in housing costs. landlords are not dying in the state. It is renters who are dying because they become unhoused or because they cannot afford to pay both housing and health care. They have to decide whether to have a roof over their children's head or whether they can pay for their medicines, and it is, you need to address this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hello, just to clarify, I am in support of this bill. My name is Jovan Jackson, and born and raised in Nevada. And Nevada used to be a place where you could go to work and, you know, not worry about having to pay your rent. But this is not, it's not like that anymore. Nevada has been home to me for a long time, but this place doesn't feel like home anymore with these rent increases. So I'm in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, members, fellow members of the committee, and good morning. My name is Alan Morales, and for the record, it's spelled AlanMorales. I'll make this brief, but I'm coming today to testify in favor of SB 426. I have been a resident of Henderson for the past 2 years. When I first got my apartment, it was pretty affordable. However, last year, my landlord raised my rent by over 20%. And as a result, me and my family are sometimes struggling to make ends meet. And I genuinely feel like this raise is extremely unfair and unjustifiable. And I've heard the horror stories from many tenants across Las Vegas. Like, there's some people who've gotten the rent raise for 300% or some crazy number. And I'm coming in to support this because this bill is essential in protecting long-term residents from being pushed out of their homes because of skyrocketing rent and increases in rent year after year. This bill will also hold landlords accountable because any landlord who violates this law will be liable for 3 months' rent plus actual damages suffered by a tenant, which I think is great. Also, this bill will tie rent increases to the cost of living with a 5% cap, and exempting small business, mom and pop shops, and new construction. I think this is going to protect the most vulnerable and also make sure that everyone benefits from this law. And in conclusion, what's been happening for the past few years is just terrible. Hundreds of residents are getting pushed out because of greedy actions from landlords. And I believe I think it's time we as a state to take action. I think it's long overdue. And I urge you all to vote for this bill when it comes to a full vote. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Next caller, please.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Wilkie, for the record, MATTHEWWILKIE. I had a statement prepared, but for brevity, I'll just say I ditto all the statements in support of SB 426. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And please submit your comments in writing so we can put them in the record. Thank you. Next caller, please.
Good morning, members of the committee and everyone listening. My name is Nathaniel Phillips, NATHANIEL PHILLIPPS. I'm a resident, born and raised in Las Vegas. I live in zip code 89101, which is going to be one of the quickest and is quickly gentrifying part of the city of Las Vegas. Instead of saying ditto to all of the previous supporters' points, I do want to call out something that we've heard in opposition. And we should be really clear about calling out the misinformation from the landlord and realtor industry in our state that has a chokehold over our politics, over our economy, and over certain legislators as well. So many of the points that they are proffering are blatant, is part of a blatant multi-state national misinformation campaign, and they should be called out as such. Policies like rent control are effective, especially when done in conjunction with other rational ways of governing. This is a question of governance and having the political will to do what is right. So in my closing, I will say it is actually indefensible for our electeds and the lobbyists in the room to not actually be pushing comprehensive solutions. The rent crisis is a racial justice issue. It is an economic justice issue. The people who are most likely to be unable to afford shelter to live as a human being are Black people, are Latinx people, are low-income white folks, are disabled people, are queer people of all colors. So if you actually purport to care about any of those people I've mentioned, we must pass comprehensive legislation like this. So my main point was to support, but also to call out the lies, the fear-mongering, and the immorality that we hear from the realtor and landlord caucus. We don't want to destroy realtors. We want people to have homes and shelter to live in. It is their human right.
Okay.
So it's really not up for debate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. BPS, is there anyone in opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 426, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Is there anyone in neutral?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 426, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller 932, go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman and Committee. First, I'd like to say I am in opposition. I think I kind of got skipped over for the testifying in opposition. I just wanted to make sure I'm okay to testify
Please go
opposition
ahead.
right now.
Yep, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Lonnie McLeod, LANI, MCCLOUD. I would just like to say that more regulations has led to less quality of life, and I just don't understand how is it that I'm at the age I am now, making the money that I make now, making more than my parents made when they were my age, and that's still considered low economic. So I'm saying that to say this, we don't need another Band-Aid type of legislation. We need to fix the root problem. I do think we need to reach back and take more accountability for those communities that we deem low economic and figure out how to come together and fix up those communities so that individuals do not feel like they have less options of affordable housing. And I would just strongly want you to oppose this bill. And thank you so much for allowing me to speak on it.
Thank you so much. BPS, I think we're good. Do you agree?
Hello. No, my name is John Carlo, and let the record reflect the neutral position was skipped over on the first round, and I've been waiting for an additional 35 minutes to testify.
Please
But
testify,
I'm
but let
neutral.
me also say we did do neutral. You might have missed it, but we did do neutral. But you go ahead and let's get your testimony now.
I'd raised my hand. I raised my hand, but I'm neutral because I disagree. Well, first, let me applaud the bill sponsor for her heart. However, Senator Stone always provides a voice of reason, and he's actually, much of what he has said has persuaded me to be in opposition, but, and also what Americans for Prosperity, that gentleman really has in-depth knowledge. I've seen him around the county speaking, and there's a lot of good things that young man has to say. But I'm neutral because I just disagree that the legislators should be getting involved. And I like to say, mi gente me escucha muy bien. But basically, I am against raising rent. But I think what we need to be thinking about is people can't afford to pay their rent. Then, what are we doing about that in providing jobs and diversifying our economy? But we need to stop licensing like BlackRock. Who gave them the permission to do business in Nevada? That's where we need to look at. Someone granted them that ability, and that's where I think that decision needs to be made at whoever's licensing these kind of big corporate companies to be raising prices on my people. And also at the Economic Forum, I saw how hundreds of millions of dollars are being given in tax credits to the people at the top, and only less than 10% will go to the people in the bottom to renovate. So these things are just misplaced. But I will call your office about this to get more in depth on what happened. But I wish everyone will have a good day, and I'll see you guys later.
Thanks so much. BPS, are there any more callers?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
We did it. Okay. So with that, we'll have Senator Spearman come back up and give her closing comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate all the comments, support, opposition, or neutral. This is one of those issues that I think we need to have robust conversations about. Just a couple of things. I was reminded when someone called in, and I quote, the rent is too damn high, end quote. I don't use that language, so make sure they add the quotes. And that was a party, that was actually a political party that was started by a Republican about the mid-2000s, I think it was. Small businesses are affected as well, and I just want to say that I know that chambers of commerce usually represent a lot of small businesses, and so when rents escalate, many of those small businesses who are not homeowners as well, because they're trying to build their business, they hurt as well. So I just want us to make sure we do that. Necessity is the mother of invention, someone said, and so I will take the diatribe of Senator Stone and say that is necessity. And my challenge to you, to my colleague, is to develop a program to work with other landlords and with the other people who have been affected by this, and teach them how to do what you do. And if we do that, then we shouldn't have a fiscal note on this, but that would be something everyone has said, that every landlord is not like that, and they've complimented you. So that would be my challenge, to meet with the members of Culinary Union and see about developing some type of a webinar that would be helpful. I think one of the things that I want to leave you all with, and that is, I got a call from someone whose sister, they found out, was living in Discovery Park, which is in my Senate district. It's over on Aliante and the 215. And most people who know anything about the Aliante area, it's always been perceived as well-to-do, and most people aren't hurting. But this mother and her 3 children lost their home because they couldn't pay the rent. And so they were living in Discovery Park for about a month before their family realized that that's what they were doing. We all have come from a very long place, myself included, but I want to thank those who took time to think about where I was trying to go and stopped to help me get here. I don't think any of us get to where we are. Any success in life is always the result of people taking a look at what we were trying to do and then having the ability to help us. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with someone. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Papa George.
Thank you. Just a short comment in closing. I appreciate the time. I want to again say we're very thankful to Senator Spearman and for moving forward on this bill, but also for this entire committee and the differing viewpoints. A couple quick thoughts that, look, our goal with this bill is to, there has to be balance and there has to be some fairness here. And, Senator Stone raised some issues. We appreciate that. But for example, we have to have an exclusion for new construction because it's necessary in fairness to attract new construction. But the overall existing inventory is 360,000 units in the greater Las Vegas area. The new construction in the pipeline is about 9,400. It's about 3% of the total. So in order to try to come to something that's effective and taking on this incredible crisis, we have to look to be in the middle. And that's the idea. The same thing with the issue of reasonable rate of return. It's broadly interpreted to be fair to both renters and landlords. And that's our goal here. Now, but what we're dealing with here is, as the Senator has said and others, we are dealing with large institutional investors that are actively buying homes, apartments, and Airbnbs and cornering the market. These rate of inflation that we're all dealing with, there's still no excuse for 30, 40, 50% increases. There's no excuse for $400, $500, $600 increases in rent. This is a crisis that we have to deal with, and in this fair market, there is need of some fair, balanced regulation, and that's what we think this bill does. So thank you, Senator Spearman. Thank you for this committee for your time. This is the number one issue. When we, you heard from some of our folks, Culinary Union knocked on 1 million doors last cycle in the greater Reno area and in the greater Las Vegas area. And by far, this was the number one issue. And there's a lot of big issues out there. But for the state of Nevada and Nevadans, we've got to take this thing on. So I would just, again, say thank you for your support.
Thank you so much. And with that, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 426 and turn the gavel back over to Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you for those of you who have participated in hearing, listening, and offering your comments on all three of the bills today. We'll now take public comment. If there's anyone here in Carson City or anyone in Las Vegas who wants to do public comment. And remember, public comment is not about any of the bills that we've heard today. It's something that has to be completely different. So if you're here in Carson City, don't see anyone in Las Vegas, don't see anyone, BPS, anyone on the phones?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Wiz Rizard, W-I-Z-R-O-U-Z-A-R-D, Deputy State Director with Americans for Prosperity. I do want to end this Good Friday to really thank the committee vice chair for an amazing job, Senator, and to the chairwoman, Spearman, thank you. This is one of the best committees that I like to actually listen to, and more importantly, find that there's a true balance in testimony. And I know you all don't get it enough, but I greatly appreciate you running your committee the way you have throughout the session. And thank you for allowing members on the committee to express some questions and thoughts. So I wanted to end this Good Friday to say thank you and show my gratitude.
Public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you, BPS. And so just before we adjourn, I want to say Happy Good Friday to those who celebrate, Happy Passover, Shalom to those who are in this season. And next week, we will have a marathon sessions. And so what I'm going to ask the committee members, those some of you I've talked to already, but ask committee members if you have questions that you know are complex and complicated, will you please get with the sponsor prior to our committee meetings so that you can get a real good understanding or explanation of whatever your concern is, because we have a deadline of getting all committee bills out by midnight next Friday. And if we don't do that, then I won't have enough time to hear everyone's bill, and some bills will not make it out. So please get with the sponsors of the bills that you have exhaustive questions about or comments or whatever. And so when I call on you, members, try to make your questions succinct so everyone gets a chance to do that. I think one day we have like maybe 5 bills we'll be hearing. So if committee members will do that, I certainly would appreciate it. Everyone have a really good weekend. And for those who celebrate Easter, happy Resurrection Day. And with that, we will adjourn, and I'll see you back here at 8 o'clock Monday morning. We are adjourned.